Yeah, bruv, the game ain't hard when you got the trump card. It's all rigged and I'm calling more games than Bob Uecker. Changing the outcomes like Duke Nukem to a new future. Win some, lose some, bag some, choose none. Will the aliens come save the day? Are we going to listen to what they say? The uranium, cranium, aliens popping up like circadians. Got me spontaneously training in the Palladium gymnasium. Ultimate battle in the extraterrestrial stadium. It really just be the Mediterranean and Sylvanians. Bloodlines, overtime, dragon descendants. Scripting bread and circus lizards in attendance. Serpent queens, breaking dreams, dragging me down. The underworld royalty is all about how much you can clown. I'm talking about the number 9-2. If you didn't know, well now you do. Numerous fears, what's in the hearse? I am who I am, man with a plan. Where you at with the rebellion? 1 in a million, us against a billionaire reptilians. Look at the word rebellion, spells out the same as the rebel lion. Ain't even trying, ain't living, you're dying. Well done to the skeleton, no time for the bellion. Strawmen led by spellmen, dialectic Hegelian. Everyone's worked up, waiting for the aliens. Problem, reaction, solution, little contribution.
Hey, Copy. Hey, Betty. Mic check.
Like nuclear fusion, spreading confusion, lie distribution. Old as hell, ain't even some new shit. All the radium, cranium, aliens popping up like circadians. Got me spontaneously training in the Palladium gymnasium. Ultimate battle in the extraterrestrial stadium. It really just be the Mediterranean Transylvanians. The uranium, cranium, aliens popping up like circadians. Got me spontaneously training in the Palladium gymnasium. Ultimate battle in the extraterrestrial stadium. It really just be the Mediterranean Transylvanians. Will the aliens come save the day? Are we gonna listen to what they say?
Welcome back, ballers. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Eye to Eye. What do we got? Episode 50 at this point? I think technically before Cody joined, we've already hit that 1 year mark. So happy late Eye to Eye birthday, Rambo and Cody. Cody, thanks for joining. Thank you for everything that you do for this stream and for this roundtable. It always means a lot. First and foremost, can you guys hear me okay? We good?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Cody, you out there?
Can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can hear you. Want to shout out everyone in the chat. Susan, Mr. S, good to see you. Sally, Betty, Coffee Girl. Gogo says, I'm on time. Good evening, everyone. Yes, so let's get started. Let's dive right in. My name's AJ, Balll Don't Lie, 3 L's in Ball. You guys can find all my work here where we're streaming from tonight on YouTube, as well as on Instagram, spelt the same way. Balll Don't Lie, 3 L's in Ball. Please feel free to send me an email anytime at wordplaybook, 3 O's in book, if you guys are interested in any of the content that I've written over the years, free of charge. I do also have a Patreon page. We're having a killer start to the month of May, so looking forward to keeping that rolling, but you guys can tune into that at patreon.com/onthemoneyball. I do want to emphasize what I did notice earlier is that Cody did change the last digits of his particular channel name. So I just want to encourage everybody. We've been noticing a bit of a drop just in views and likes and subscribes across many, many channels that are out there. So please, you guys, do us all a favor and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button while you're here. And Cody, if you wouldn't mind maybe just emphasizing that if those can't find you, that the last digits at the end of your name have changed. So I want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Yeah, thanks AJ again for that and for putting this on tonight. I really appreciate you, and thanks Rambo for being here always as well and sharing all the info that he does. Appreciate you as well, and also to everyone in the chat. thank you guys for always watching and being here with us and being on my channel and all of our channels. And as AJ said, make sure you go give some love to all the Gematria channels and help them out. And if you guys are having trouble finding my channel in the search or something, or the notifications aren't coming through, I think something did get kind of moved around recently. I don't know if it's because I changed the numbers or not, but if you guys do want to find me, it's Decoding with KODI on YouTube. And normally before, I don't think anyone had to. I'll have to check it myself to see if I just type in my name and see if it comes up. But Decoding with KODI on YouTube, and then the Buy Me a Coffee link, as usual, is buymeacoffee.com/decoding with KODI. And that's how you guys can find me. So appreciate it, and look forward to having a good stream tonight.
Yeah, we appreciate you, KODI, very much. We know you've been traveling a bit too, so I'm sure you're tired as always when you get up the hours that you do. But just for a final emphasis, you guys, I zoomed into the image here. If you guys cannot find Decoding with KODI by just searching that in the search bar on YouTube, make sure that you include the numbers 16461. That should really narrow down the search for you guys. So thanks again, KODI. We appreciate you, man. Rambo, last but certainly not least.
Yeah, thanks again. And yeah, it's good to see you here, KODI. I appreciate you being here because of how difficult it is for you to make it. I appreciate that sacrifice, all the great information, always mind-blowing. Look forward to that again today, as the audience is as well. And thank you, AJ, again, for your contributions, your decodes, and for this is your project, putting this together, and I appreciate that. It really brings the community together. And thanks to the audience as well. And this is where I can be found, patreon.com/thetruthcodes. There's only one tier, $5 a month. And there is some free content. And I'm also on Instagram. It's instagram.com/thetruthcodes.
Spelt just the way it's supposed to, just like it sounds. Yep, Instagram and Patreon, $5 a month, not a day, not a week. Make sure you guys give them a shot. At least sign up for the free tier. Doesn't cost a thing. Yeah. So we appreciate it, Rambo. And
yeah,
speaking of which, yeah, I know that you got, as always, you always got another project in the works. And I know you've trimmed down one of your newest videos for a quick little preview for the fam. So I'm going to pass the screen share off to you, my friend.
Yeah, so this video, it's not a project in the works. It's a completed video which I uploaded on Sunday, having to do with the purported assassination attempt of Donald Trump. Which, I mean, I break down what the ritual is, and I could have 3-4 hours on this one because I've been tracking in detail these assassination attempts, which are all rituals of Donald Trump. And so the details keep repeating and the themes keep repeating. And so I've got so much on it, but I do have a 20-minute video that is out now. And this is a preview to that video. And that's what it's based on. It brings so many things together. You know, we talk about this, the moon mission, NASA. NASA's involved in everything. There's more to NASA than just a space agency. It's not even the best funded space agency. There's another space agency. They call it SSP, Secret Space Program. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact. They all talk about it. In fact, a lot of the disappearing scientists, they all talk about the SSP. Everybody knows it exists, and it's not NASA. So one of the things you see with NASA when you see these, like the Artemis 2 mission, it's a distraction from the fact that there is another space program, which it's a fact, just a known fact. They all talk about it. It's actually better funded than NASA, and in fact, they even use taxpayer money for it, in addition to private funding. So what you're seeing with Artemis 2 is actually quite primitive. I mean, regardless if you want to debate whether they did it or not, it's primitive. There's way more advanced. In fact, one of the reasons some of the scientists have disappeared is because they actually had the intention of publishing their work on anti-gravity. Anti-gravity technology exists. It does exist. It's not spec. It exists. And so one of the reasons they're doing this is it's out there now. Multiple scientists know this. There is anti-gravity technology. So when you see a rocket with all the amount of pollution that rocket puts out, I mean, I don't have the statistics, but you can look at it. incredibly hazardous to the environment. That Artemis 2, we're supposed to applaud that. I mean, they're just polluting the environment on so many levels. The fact is that's primitive compared to the technology that really is out there, which is anti-gravity. There's no smoke and rocket fuel combustion and all the fallout that comes from. There's none of that. This is primitive, and it's to hide from that. So there's a lot going on right now with the disappearances. Now they all talk about disclosure. That ties into, and Donald Trump is related through, if you've seen my decos before, Aleister Crowley, how the letter from Aleister Crowley, Thelema, some of his Thelema followers, or L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons. Jack Parsons is a very important figure. He's one of the founding members of NASA. He co-founded the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, which is Jack Parsons. They know that. It's a known thing. JPL is also Jack Parsons' laboratory, and he's a very high-level magician. Even Aleister Crowley felt like, no, he's too out there even for Aleister Crowley. And so we've talked about this. Aleister Crowley condemned L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons, their Babylon working ritual, which was intended to bring in a Antichrist moonchild. They wanted somebody to birth a moonchild who would be the Antichrist. Now, Jack Parsons thought that the Antichrist moonchild was a good thing. He thought it was a good thing. And so this is not just, we don't know about magic. And sometimes, we don't know how to judge these things. They look scary. Well, Aleister Crowley is the expert. He's the one he's their big mentor. And he said what Jack Parsons did was insane. And it was dangerous. And he condemned it. And it's too far out there. But the letter in which Aleister Crowley condemned Jack Parsons and his Babylon working ritual to birth an Antichrist was dated for the very day of Donald Trump's birth. So that's the backdrop to all of this. Just to show you that this ritual magic, Aleister Crowley, Babylon working moonchild, it's part of NASA. It's an intrinsic part of NASA. NASA was founded as it's an esoteric order.
I do think it is fitting that today also just so happens to be National Astronaut Day.
Wow, that is an amazing, appropriate fact. I didn't know that. Thanks. National Astronaut Day.
Yep, on 5/5, Satan equals 55, God 55, a lot of that kind of stuff. And I deleted the image, but it's also Revenge of the Sith Day, which is the day after the May the 4th be with you day, right? So all of the stars, space kind of stuff connected there. Rambo, before I flip the screen share to you, I'm just noticing in the thumbnail that you might not have the tab open you're meaning to share. Like it might look weird because I'm just saying, like right here, it's just kind of, it shows this like portal. But I know you got.
Okay.
Yeah, it's also Cinco de Mayo, and Casey Jones Astrology says Rambo is looking especially handsome today. Wink, wink. Brown chicken, brown cow.
Yeah, he's got jokes. Yeah, yeah, thanks. You know what's funny too? If you would asked me when I was from ages, I'd say like 8 to 12 or 13. Ask me what I want to be when I grow up. I really wanted to be an astronaut. Like I when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut more than anything else, which is kind of funny. So I was really drawn to this, like space and planets and stuff. So I used to get like, I'm going to be 57. So, this is back in the day. There's no internet and stuff. I used to get National Geographic. Anything they did on planets and space, man, I was really into that stuff. Yeah. So early on, funnily enough, that was the thing. I wanted to be an astronaut. Of course, now I know what it takes to be an astronaut. I mean, you need to take oaths and stuff, and a lot of them are subjected to MK Ultra. Like, no, that's not what I was imagining when I was younger. But yeah, this is the thing I wanted as a kid. So maybe clearly, I'm still drawn to it. But nonetheless, I can share the video. You got my screen, right? So
we can see it. Yeah. If you can just hit play really quick so I can give you a thumbs up that we can hear it. We're good. Okay. I can hear it.
Luke chapter 22, verse 10. And he said unto them, Behold, when ye are entered into the city, there shall a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. follow him into the house where he entereth in. The man bearing a pitcher of water is the symbol of the zodiac sign of Aquarius. This is about the birth of a new age, the age of Aquarius. The next verse, Luke 22:11, and ye shall say unto the goodman of the house, the master saith unto thee, where is the guest chamber where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? This was the Last Supper. 2211 is the date, 22nd November, a U.S. presidential assassination date. The 2026 White House Correspondents' Dinner was a representation of the Last Supper, with all diners seated on one side of a long table. Donald Trump in the center. This is about the occult mystery elements that crafted the persona of the purported would-be Donald Trump assassin, Cole Thomas Allen. Ritual ceremonial magic is and has always been at the heart of all human societal governance. Jack Parsons is one such ceremonial magician of unique and powerful ability, whose spirit lives on in 2026. He attended Caltech University, is one of the fathers of modern rocketry, considered crucial to the Apollo program and the moon landings, and is a co-founder of NASA's JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab, Jack Parsons Lab, honored with a crater on the dark side of the moon named after him, an area visited for the first time in human history, as per NASA, by the Artemis II moon circumnavigation. As fate would have it, the would-be assassin graduated from Parsons Caltech University and did an internship at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, JPL, Jack Parsons Lab. Jack Parsons is known and proven to have performed a ritual called Babylon Working with L. Ron Hubbard with the intention of manifesting an Antichrist moonchild on Earth. This was acknowledged by the leader of Parsons and Hubbard's magical order of Thelema, Aleister Crowley, in a letter that Crowley dated for the very day on which Donald Trump was born, 14th June 1946, the day of a full moon, a blood moon.
I am not here in America as the great beast. This is the dawn of a new eon. None of us can stand on the sidelines, especially those of us with the power to bend the world to our will.
This is about the birth of a new age, or aeon. Jesus ushered in the age of Pisces. Once he did so, he departed and suggested that he would usher in the next age, the age of Aquarius, the age of the man bearing a pitcher of water. And now Trump's world collides with the NASA JPL Associates world. In Pythagorean numerology, double-digit numbers are reduced to a single-digit number by adding the digits of the double-digit number. T is the 20th letter of the alphabet. 20 is 2 plus 0, which equals 2. So T is 2 in value. Cole Thomas Allen's initials, CTA, represent a rocket countdown. 3,
3,
2,
2, 1.
1.
Love that one, Rambo. The 3-2-1 connection and the way that you presented it, breaking down each letter numerically and kind of going back and forth like that. That was some really cool. What would you call it? Videography, cinematography. That what you did there was really, really cool. And you guys, come on, that's worth $10 of like for one video. Okay, this is $5 a month for everything Rambo does. So shout out to you, Rambo. Great job.
No, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I enjoy putting that together. It's very painstaking, but yeah, it's the whole video is 20 minutes, and I have a lot more on it. Yeah, I can share some of that here today, but yeah, it's a 20-minute video, and yeah, so much ties together with Donald Trump, and like I said, the world has always been like this. It's you can call it the Matrix if that's the analogy you want to use. Well, this is you know, it's not something that most people have an understanding of, but these occult elements, magical, you call it MAGICK, which is actual ritual ceremonial magic, as opposed to MAGIC, which is entertainment type magic, and it is at the heart of just human existence. It just is. There's more to human existence than what's measurable by the five senses. I'll put it that way. And I show a lot of these elements, and it's not a coincidence that at the White House press correspondence dinner, the headline act was a magician, which is Oz Perlman. That is not a coincidence. It's all about the magician. And Jack Parsons, this is another reason that Jack Parsons is so relevant right now, is because he would be 111 years right now. So he'd be 111. So that 111 is it's a major number. Also, it has to do with dimensions. I think length, the three-dimensional realm is length times width times height. A cube, the ratio of the dimensions of a cube is 1 by 1 by 1. And a cube is a very powerful metaphor. And if you see images of Cole Allen's arrest, how he's face down on a carpet with cube designs. This is cube motifs. So he's face down with cubes. Well, again, so what are the dimensions of a cube? It's 1 by 1 by 1. Jack Parsons would be 111 years old right now. And the cube also represents the three-dimensional realm. Another thing that's now mainstream, you know, whether people can wrap their heads around it or not, is the issue of dimensionality, where there are other dimensions other than 3D, some which are lower, which are not pleasant, and they have brought some of these elements from the lower dimensions up here. They can't come up by themselves, but they've been brought up here. And they can do this using science. Science and magic are the same thing. And there are higher dimensions. And they've quoted that, and that's actually mainstream discussion. They've been having hearings in the Capitol. The Congress of the United States of America have had hearings on UFO disclosure. Of course, there's a ton of deception that will go along with that. People will actually lie under oath. It's all under oath. People give their titles and the positions they've worked in, and they'll take an oath. And these hearings have been ongoing. And one of the big things that has come up in that is dimensionality. They're talking about dimensions and how some of these UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, can move in and out of dimensions. They can go to the fifth dimension. Once it's out of third dimension, you cannot perceive them. And I've talked with KODI, has shown us how John Cena, how WWE has so much of this, surprisingly to me, how it's so much depth. Actually, there's so much more depth to WWE. They talk about it with John Cena and "You Can't See Me," and what "You Can't See Me" means, which is John Cena's motto. And there's a door. He has this door image. That's about dimensionality. Once you're above 3D, if you're in a 5D and over, you're not perceptible to 3 dimensions. So again, this is now mainstream. It's mainstream. They're talking about it in Congress, and a big story now. It's ongoing. It's all these different scientists, and some aren't all scientists. Some of them are people who work at places like Los Alamos, even though they're not scientists, but they're all connected to the nuclear industry and the energy industry and disclosure. And there are people with high levels of access, like the the former general, Air Force General William McCaslin. He's the highest level person who's disappeared. And so they're privy to some kind of information based on disclosure and high levels of technology that we haven't seen. They haven't shown them to us. So when you see the Artemis 2 rocket, the technology that's available now, I'm not saying from UFOs or extraterrestrials, humans have actually, or one of the ways humans have advanced now in its aeronautic technology is from back engineering down extraterrestrial craft. That's actually how they've done it. And this Artemis 2 rocket, as spectacular as it is, it's primitive compared to the technology, and they do have it, and they have made these. So the majority of sightings of UFOs are actually man-made craft, the overwhelming majority. You're actually seeing man-made craft, but you think it's UFO because they're doing things that no known earthly craft can do. But the deck you can now. And so this is a big thing. It's ongoing, and you know how it is. Pop culture, Hollywood will also reflect the reality of what's really going on. So now disclosure is a big thing. But
to that point, Rambo, if I can just add a little key wordplay here with what you were talking about with this anti-gravity technology, right? And Oz Perlman, the magician. I have a question to end it, but think about this. Oz Perlman, you know, he's been in the scene a little bit over the last couple of years, but it seems like he's really kind of started to show face more when these Wizard of Oz movies have come out, Wicked, right? About witches and like wizardry and witchcraft, essentially. But I mean, I'll be the first to say, you could just Google it. I mean, I would argue the most popular song in the whole series of Wicked is called Defying Gravity.
Wow, that's a good one. I have to write that down. That's amazing. Thanks. That's amazing.
Yeah, so like Oz Perlman, Wizard of Oz, Defying Gravity.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it just, thank you. It makes me think too. Like, really, my question for you, Rambo, is, you know, we've talked about magic, wizardry, witchcraft. I mean, just with that example I just gave, you got to think that there's a lot of witchcraft that kind of overlaps with just the whole science of space. And the whole practice of space, right?
Yeah, so magic and you could call it even sorcery and science, they actually coincide. They're almost the same thing. In fact, people who've reported and have knowledge of the whole UAP and government, you know, how much information the government has. In the government, they purport that they actually use the term magic. Like, you reach a level of technology where they say this is just magic. You reach a point where now this is just magic. We've gone beyond science at this point. They do acknowledge that could use the term magic, and the scientists use that term. That's when the technology gets to such a mind-blowing level, which they have. And they're doing things like bringing entities into the world, 3D world, from the lower dimension, which they have done. A lot of these things, I mean, I understand if people say, you know what, until I get a concrete proof of this, I'm not going to really waste my time thinking about it. I'll just focus on what's knowable. I think I respect anyone who sees things that way. But of course, they don't show you everything that they are doing. They're not obligated, and they're not that honest, because a lot of these programs are actually illegal. They're actually illegal. They're just well funded by private entities, and they're illegal. They're not legal at all. They're not obligated to tell us anything at all. And we don't live in actual democracy. There never has been actual democracy in the world at all. It never has been. So there's no rule that they all have to follow, or else what? Because you can't enforce these rules against entities that are that powerful in this world, powerful on an earthly level. So there's nothing to force them to reveal to the public what they have available. And there's also, sometimes you do need to have secrecy. The public shouldn't know everything. Sometimes, no, you shouldn't. Sometimes it's not in the interest of the public itself for them to know that, to put some. So secrecy at some level is necessary. At the same time, so the things that they're capable of doing, the public just wouldn't, they couldn't wrap their heads around. They can bring entities up, and they have, from lower dimensions, and these are not positive entities, and things they can do with that. But those entities can't come up by themselves. Now, what they want to do is go from 3D to 5D. The problem with 5D is, for them, it's not a problem. It's a problem for them. Is you can't take your ego. Ego can't exist in the higher dimensions. And so the entities that are they seem to have most influence, socio-political influence on the world now, they're attached. I mean, they are attached to their egos, like hopelessly attached. I mean, nothing's ever hopeless, but they are attached and they don't want to let go. I don't know why. Why would you want to let go of your ego? Why would you? But they are. And that's a dilemma for them, is that ego cannot exist in the higher dimensions, but they still want to. Now, the UFOs, UAPs, which are very advanced, to the point where they can move in and out of dimension, that's where technology will take you. You will reach a point where you can actually transcend the dimensions. So anybody who lives at any moment in time, like we live now, everybody exists at a certain moment in time. What you see is the latest technology. And then you look back and think how primitive everything else was, and think how advanced you are. But what you don't realize is 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 1,000 years from now, what now is the latest technology it'll be a joke. You'll actually laugh at it. The same way people my age laugh at cassettes. We used to take cassettes and put them in a cassette, and we laugh about it. Well, the technology we have now with the AIs just coming out and cell phones and stuff, that will be primitive too at one point, and it'll be laughed at as well. And where they're going is, I guess the ultimate is when you can actually transcend higher dimensions and move in and out of, but they're advanced, and there maybe they're not, maybe they aren't. There may or may not be advanced species that can already do it. And some of it seems to be alluded to in the Bible, especially with the narrative of the chariots of fire, which seems to be the language that you would use if you don't have the knowledge of the technology of aerial craft. The only thing you would describe it as is a chariot of fire. But it goes further than that. That's actually Elijah and Elisha. They saw the chariots of fire. Elisha could see the chariots of fire, but nobody else could, which seems to suggest that he had the ability to see beyond the 3 dimensions. The chariots of fire were in 5 dimensions, in the 5th dimension. So they were not perceptible to the Syrian army that were surrounding Elisha, and his servant was freaking out. The Syrian army is surrounding us. Oh my God, what do we? He's freaking out. And Elisha said, relax. We're surrounded by chariots of fire, which are much more powerful than the Syrian army, but the Syrian army could not see them. So what Elisha did, Elisha, basically what they describe is Elisha had this ability. You say his third eye was open. So he had the ability to enable the Syrian army briefly to perceive beyond 3D, to perceive 5D. And when the Syrian army looked up to the sky, they saw the chariots of fire all over, and they immediately surrendered, just immediately, because they could see them briefly. This is exactly what is being discussed in Congress, in hearings right now in 2026. UAPs that can't be seen, that are in the sky. They're there, but you can't see them. This is exactly the narrative of Elijah and Elisha.
Cody, just checking in on you, brother. I'm not sure if you fell asleep. I know it's super, super late for you. So, and or if there was anything else you wanted to add. I know you've done some work on it.
Yeah, I'm just waiting, letting Rambo. I was just listening and checking on a story as I was listening, and just I do got something that kind of goes in with what Rambo was. I mean, not specifically exactly what he was talking about, but definitely something that just broke. A news story in the WWE, of course, you know me, but it actually blows my mind because it fits with what Rambo's talking about, but also what I've been talking about. So,
yeah, you can go ahead.
Oh, I thought you had a presentation.
Yeah, I have more, but I've talked a lot already. I mean, give someone else a chance to get in and share.
Because other parts of what Rambo is going to share is going to pivot into, shouting out some things that Myron's posted this past week as well. I'm going to shout out Susan really quick, just mentioning original project Bluebeam. That reminds me of, once again, Oz, the Wizard of Oz. Like he essentially is projecting images behind a curtain, right? Shout out Toto for revealing what's behind the curtain. And I don't mean to give too much away with Wicked, but you find out essentially, Oz, the great old Oz, he's nothing. He's nothing. He just projects things, right? So, anyways, yeah, Cody, I'll pass you the floor here.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, we talked about how I changed my number, and one of the reasons I did that is because last month I had discovered a code that has to do with Apollyon, the angel of the bottomless pit. And of course, that came from, it's a long story, and most of you guys have watched my videos, a lot of you in the chat, so you guys know, but that kind of stemmed from the beginning of the Artemis thing last month, because Apollyon, Apollo. But then last week, I did a video on this debut of this wrestler from Japan. And don't forget, Japan equals 42, like Iran. Both these countries are involved in the war. And so on the same day that this wrestler debuted, it was the day that Trump received his bell from King Charles, the World War II bell from the ship. And I had made the connection that he received the bell on 4/28, but Donald Trump was born 4 years and at the beginning of the 28th week after Pearl Harbor, which of course involved Japan. And I had mentioned how Oz Perlman was just a few days prior to this. He was at that dinner. Well, so you have Pearl Harbor, you have Perlman. But then I realized this connection with these digits, 284 or 428 or 824. I had noticed that all these digits were connecting to this. And I'd also mentioned that the ship that Trump received the bell for, if you go to his third day of life, when he was 3 days old, the ship would have been 2 years and 84 days old. So I was like, okay, here's another. But the reason that was important is because he received the bell from a World War ship 3 days after his Perlman incident. And so he was 3 days old when the ship was 284. He received the bell on 284, 3 days after his Perlman incident. So this was also going along with all the Trinity stuff I've been talking about as well, with all that. But then, I made the connection between these digits, and I realized that it's not just 284. It's all these these numbers are seemingly connected. These two dates on the calendar are seemingly connected, 284 or 824, because there's 248 days between them. So both the dates with those digits, there's 248 days between those days. So I had mentioned that, and of course I talked about Kobe. And then I had shown this, I basically showed everything that connected. On the day Trump received the bell, Kobe was dead 2284 days. That was on the date 284, of course. That was 248 days after Kobe Bryant Day, which was on 248. If you type out the date August 24th, it equals 284. If you type out 248, it equals 284. If you type out President Donald Trump, it equals 248. Well, from that, not only was that 248 days after Kobe Bryant, and 2284 days after he died, it was 30,824 days after Pearl Harbor. All in this same day. And of course, Trump received the bell. But on that same day, WWE debuted a wrestler named Evil. from Japan. And you'll never guess when Evil's birthday is, Kobe Bryant's death date. And his name, Tataki Watanabe, equals 284. So undeniable. And so Kobe died on 1/26/2020. That was the day that Evil turned 33. And Kobe equals 33. Now, Kobe is a city in Japan. So now, as I'm here listening to Rambo talk, also he mentioned the underworld. He mentioned bringing things into from the lower realms. Well, just look at this. So the guy's name was Evil in his minor leagues. He was known for his Japan. Obviously, he's from Japan. But whenever they bring new wrestlers into WWE, if they had old names, they always change it. They always completely change their character name. And this guy took on a new name. They just announced it today. And guess what? So they changed his name from Evil, and they named him a Japanese name named Naraku. And
Cody,
I was
Cody,
like,
so,
I wonder
Cody, quick
what
question.
Naraku means.
So you're saying when these wrestlers like quote unquote retire momentarily and they're off the stage for a few years and then come back, they always have a new name?
Well, WWE always changes their name. They always rebrand these guys because they want to have WWE wants to have their own brand over them, their own name for them. So whatever name they had in other companies or other promotions, they always drop it usually. But his name was always Evil. His name was just Evil. And I mean, that's big in itself. But what did he change his name to? Today, they just announced, May 5th, Naraku. And guess what that means? After everything I've been talking about the last month, it means underworld or abyss or hell. Angel of the bottomless pit, Apollyon. I've been talking about that. And now, how does this also perfectly connect another way, Apollyon, but also Abaddon, a bad dawn? Trump got his mugshot on Kobe Bryant Day, 2/4/8. But what also happened on 2/4/8 in history? It was the demotion of the planet Pluto. And Pluto is the god of the underworld. So these digits that connected with Kobe Bryant Day, which is 2/4/8, connects with Pluto, the god of the underworld. And now they name this guy Naraku, which means underworld.
BPM also just mentioned that
Vince McMahon's birthday is 8/24. I completely forgot that. How did I miss that? Oh my God. Thank you guys. How did I miss that? The guy who literally created the company, his birthday is 8/24. And he's been considered the devil. Like Derek's covered this. People in the company used to call him the devil because behind the scenes, he was kind of a devilish character, even not just on stage, but behind the scenes. Vince McMahon was a very devilish person, right? He's also in trouble for all of his stuff he's done in the past. And so, yeah, Vince McMahon's birthday is 8/24. Yeah, wow. So that's a big one I completely overlooked. And he's born the year of the Trinity test. Wow. So again, I know people get tired of me probably talking about WWE and the importance, but this is high ritual, what these people are doing here. And Vince McMahon is one of the centers of that. I mean, he's born on the Pluto demotion day. And again, remember what happened the year that he was born, the Trinity test, where Oppenheimer said during his Trinity test, "I'm the destroyer of worlds. The angel of the bottomless pit is the destroyer of worlds," Apollyon. So, and Obafemi is even CNN today. I wish I would have screenshotted it, and I never see this, but even CNN today, they had a WWE post on their front page right here. Actually, it's still there. WWE's next big thing, right up here at the top. I've never seen, I can never recall seeing a WWE headline on CNN's front page. But today they had it. And who's the next big thing? Obafemi. And what did Obafemi do? He called himself the Destroyer, and he destroyed the Beast at WrestleMania 42 and retired Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar is also in trouble for being a part of the Vince McMahon scandals. And Brock Lesnar retired after losing to Obafemi, and Brock Lesnar said he would destroy the Beast. He's the Destroyer. And Obafemi, I've never seen so much energy go to a wrestler, and this proves it. They are putting Obafemi on the front page of CNN. I've never seen that. I've never seen Roman Reigns on the front page of CNN even.
Just staying on the topic really quick about Vince McMahon, shout out to BPM again, tying it back in with Artemis too. Vincent Kennedy McMahon had a car crash on Merritt Parkway. Artemis launch from Kennedy Space Center on Merritt Island in Florida.
When was that crash?
I don't know. I'm sure you could do a quick Google on it. I do remember though that I don't remember how long ago it was. Had to have been within the last year for sure. I feel like we talked about that briefly at some point. Yeah, car crash, Merritt Parkway. Oh, so that was 4. Okay.
That was a July 24th. Just a month before his birthday. Interesting.
Yeah, good alignment there.
Connecticut. Yeah, that's and Vince McMahon, he had his limo get blown up on live TV, and they faked his death. And that whole storyline was canceled because they had that wrestler Chris Benoit, who actually killed his family right after that. So they actually scrapped the storyline. Because they thought it was too sensitive to fake someone's death. And so because right after that, the real story happened with Benoit. But yeah, they blew up his limo and faked his death. And that was on June 11th. I can't remember what year, but it was on June 11th. And yeah, so that's another interesting connection with Vince McMahon and car incident.
Was this the one off?
But yeah,
of
it just
Merritt
blew my
Parkway?
mind. Naraku. No, that was the real life clash. They did. What I'm saying is they did a scripted car explosion. Like if you look it up, Vince McMahon.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I was just thinking back to BPM's comment about the Vince McMahon car crash on Merritt Parkway, because BPM clarified. He said, or Older Bone said, few months ago he had a crash. Shoot, I might have missed if we're talking about someone else now, because Rudy Giuliani, he's been in the news lately. He was in that car crash not too long ago too. But anyways,
yes, so this actually goes to, this is imagery of what I was talking about earlier. Chariots of fire. This is a very common theme of them. Chariots of fire. Mm-hmm. That's what they're referring to. And what are the chariots of fire? Chariots of fire are craft that you cannot perceive with your three-dimensional eyes, that can move in and out of dimensions. That's actually what's being described in the Bible. And that's what this ritual is. Remember Donald Trump's Las Vegas Trump Tower Hotel at the beginning of 2025, when on January 1st, how a Tesla Cybertruck blew up outside of Trump Tower. That was a chariots of fire ritual. And we saw one later that year in 2025 on the anniversary of the release of Back to the Future. You had the Portuguese soccer superstar, Diogo Jota, who was playing for Liverpool at the time. So he had a crash when he was headed towards preseason training. He was driving through Spain and his car blew up. This was ahead of the World Cup. That's Chariots of Fire. And then the one I bring up a lot is Gilbert Arenas' son, who had the same year Tesla Cybertruck in Los Angeles. It lost control and then it crashed and caught fire. Now remember who is it who went up in the chariots of fire in the Bible? It was Elijah. Well, what's the name of Gilbert Arenas' son? It's Elijah. Elijah with an A. Elijah had a Tesla crash which caught fire. That's a chariot of fire, but where they're more explicit as to what the ritual is his name, Elijah.
Yeah, and I didn't even as I was doing that, I didn't even realize that you had been talking. Well, I knew you had been talking about it, but I completely overlooked that you've been talking about this chariots of fire, cars fire thing, and so yeah, that's crazy. What's the chance that it was on your birthday, Rambo, that this happened? And you always talk about it.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that alignment with myself and things that I haven't done decodes on it, but I'm just seeing stuff aligned with me just everywhere now. Plus, if you say it, you kind of look a little, but no, I'm seeing it. This is just another example.
Yeah,
I hope I'm not manifesting it. If it is, I'm just going to talk about positive stuff.
Well, I don't think you manifested this because it was well before you even probably were talking about anything like that. But that was 2007.
Now, there is another very important 248 birthday. Now, remember, right before the purported assassination attempt at the correspondence dinner, the big thing that everyone's talking about, they're making it blatant. They had his press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, say shots will be fired. Remember that? Everyone's familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
So Caroline Leavitt said shots will be fired. She told Fox News. Well, look up Caroline Leavitt's birthday.
Her birthday's not that day, is it? Really?
Caroline Leavitt.
Oh, man. How did I miss that in the decode too, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to see everything. I go through it all the time, especially, and I'm very, very thankful for great patrons like BPM. On BPM, like he'll always, and others, great patrons, like you'll do a decode and then they'll point out stuff you miss and you kick yourself, but no, you can't see everything. You can't see everything.
Man.
But that's another thing too. Look at her last name. What were we just talking about? And AJ, that was a great contribution. What is the name of that song?
Defying Gravity.
Oh, yeah.
Defying Gravity, Wizard of Oz, or it's from Wicked, actually, but yeah.
Right. So Defying Gravity, which is from Wicked, which is based on the Wizard of Oz, who was the headline performer at the correspondence dinner. It was Oz Perlman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at her last name, Levitt. That's levitate.
Oh, nice.
Now, also shout out Jake, I believe. I get so many contributions from different people. Sometimes I forget who told me what. I believe it's Jake on Instagram, who showed me there's a video that's put out by the White House where they're saying Melania Trump it's a replica mini White House, but it's actually a beehive. And that they're actually creating fresh honey out of that beehive at the White House. And then he showed me that, and clearly there's some symbolism there. A beehive is a major Freemason symbol. But also, another thing they talk about, especially with the bumblebees, is that they say there's a mystery as to how bumblebees fly. Supposedly, I didn't know this, but they're able to levitate. There's something about levitation and bumblebees, how their ability to levitate is a mystery, in that it can be, I guess science can imitate the flight of a bumblebee, which is, wow, now that I think of it, it's a famous classical music song, Flight of the Bumblebee. But it can be used for levitation technology, basically. And the White House they put up a beehive, and so that's related too. But levitate.
That's amazing, because the White House, you had the Patriots in the Super Bowl playing who? Seattle, Washington. Shout out BPM, on fire right now. Seattle, Washington's known as Emerald City. Emerald City is where Oz lives in Wicked, and of course they win in Levi's Stadium. So that's some great additions, BPM. Thank you.
Yeah, he's always on fire. Well, yeah, I gotta write that down. So much to write down. Levi's.
Yeah, I I can't believe her birthday. I really am still shocked. You know, her name equals number of the beast. uh, but what I also noticed was that um, something with the 66s, which I just talked about in my video earlier today, this quick video I posted. So Naraku, his new name is 66. And I told you guys he received that bell on the day that Trump met with Charles, which also equals 66 in the same cipher. But that's also the gematria of lunar and abyss. In fact, Naraku actually equals lunar in multiple ciphers. The word hexa equals 66. And that's the reason that's important is because I had just talked about today how they were referencing the honeybees and they make hexagons. And if you did a measurement, and there seemed to be a riddle with the hex, because Trump had symbolized himself as that movie Beekeeper, and from the guy who actually starred in the movie as the beekeeper, Statham, it was 276 days after his birthday. Well, that's a hexagonal number. And bees make a hexagon. That's the 12th hexagonal number, and B equals 12. So I had pointed this out today. And then I had realized that a very important number is the number 66, because 66 is the 6th hexagonal number. So the number 66, not only does number of the beast equal 66, with 66 being the 6th hexagonal number, it's like a 666, because 66 is the 6th hexagonal number. And again, hex is a 6. But in German, so bees are also associated with witchcraft as well, I read. But and witchcraft does equal 666. But what was I going to say? So 66. But yeah, in German, the word hexe is witch. I learned this word just recently too on one of my study papers. The word hexe is a witch, and you spell it Hexe, which equals 66, which again is the 6th hexagonal number. So,
isn't a hex also a term for when a witch casts a spell, like they're hexing?
Well, that's where that comes from. It comes from the German hexe. That's where the English put a hex on somebody. Comes from the German word hexe, which is a witch. So, yeah, it's super interesting. And then I brought up today too how this is a Saturn thing as well, because Saturn has a hexagon on it. And somebody had mentioned to me that in the movie King Kong versus Godzilla, King Kong throws a tree at the firmament, which in the movie is like a dome firmament. And when it hits the firmament, it shows hexagons. So this is going to be kind of an area I dive deeper into over time, I guess, probably, because it does seem to be a very important symbol. You know, I'm always talking about pentagrams, pentagons, but I haven't really looked so much into hexagons. But I did know about the Saturn correlation and all that. So, but yeah, I just found it was interesting that it was 276 days after Statham's birthday, which is the 12th hexagonal number, and the whole thing was tied to bees, which make hexagons. So, and then Carolyn Levitt, like again, going back to her, she equals 66, which goes with this guy who just debuted, Naraku equals 66. So, but yeah, it's just interesting that Rambo was just talking about, you know, the entities from lower dimensions, and then this guy is debuting. I would like to say too, he's debuting he's going to be wrestling his first match next week on the 12th. And that will be 106 days after his birthday. which is a number I've been talking about with Apollyon. Apollyon equals 106, the angel of the bottomless pit. And remember, this is so important because Revelation 9:11, that verse is about the angel of the bottomless pit. And I had shown how Obafemi is kind of reference to Obama, who Obama is the destroyer. They made Obama as a see if I can find back in my slides here, but they put Obama as the destroyer. And Obama does equal bomb, Obama. And there is an Obama Japan. So there's an Obama Japan, there's a Kobe Japan. And but when Obafemi beat the Beast at WrestleMania 42, I had said he had called himself the Destroyer, and Obafemi's headline on his Instagram is the ruler of all things. And Newsweek's article about Obama posting him as the Destroyer said God of all things. So clearly referencing these two guys as destroyers. And Obafemi was born on Oppenheimer's birthday, which is why I made that connection to begin with. But not only his birthday, his 94th birthday. Let me see if I can find that. Where is it? Yeah, his 94th birthday. And what was crazy is this still blows my mind, but not only was Obafemi born on his 94th birthday, like J. Robert Oppenheimer equals 94. That's the plutonium. That's Pluto, the underworld, 94. It's an element. But if you measured from this show that they called The Decision to Drop the Bomb, which featured Oppenheimer, from that show to the birth of Oba, 1904 plutonian days. And that's just mind-blowing because that's the year Oppenheimer was born. He used plutonium to do the bomb, and I'm connecting this guy clearly to him and the bomb. And this guy was born 1904 plutonian days after this show. It's just mind-blowing to me. Because, I mean, I don't often measure in that. I just happened to notice it. I was like, it's the most perfect connection you could think of when you're connecting it to literally plutonium. So, yeah, it's been a continued theme that I guess I'm not going to get away from because now they just debuted this guy who takes on the name the Bottomless Pit, essentially, hell. And don't forget, Obafemi, he came up from NXT, and this guy came up to essentially replace him in the lower levels because NXT is the minor leagues of WWE. Obafemi just moved up from the minor leagues, and this guy, Evil, came in to kind of replace him in the minor leagues. So it's kind of a replacement thing. But I forget, I was going to say one last thing, and then I'll hand it over back to you guys. But I was one last thing I wanted to say before. I wanted to say how I'd also made all this Anaheim Angel stuff that's been going on. And how I believe the angel of the bottomless pit is tied in with the angels of Anaheim. And I showed how the reason I changed, this isn't actually the reason I changed it, because I showed how the Bible is split with 16461 and it leaves 14641 verses left. So that's actually the reason I changed it. But a number associated with Apollyon is this 641 or 146, because in Greek Apollyon equals 1461, and in English Latin Apollyon equals 641, and this is the exact gematria of Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And I just mentioned on the same day that last month when this guy died, what's his name again? Can't think of his name now, and I don't see it written here. Whatever this baseball player's name was, who died. He died on the 16th of, which is 16/4. But what I pointed out was that on that same day he died, Drake did an explosion. Drake, kind of like the dragon in Revelation. And he was exactly 1442 days old, which is the gematria of Revelation 9:11. I mean, that's just. But then after all this 641 stuff, I realized that Obama, his name equals Apollyon. Barack Hussein Obama II equals 641, like Apollyon, like Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And if you go to the Strong's Greek, it's 623 is Apollyon. And if you take away Obama's twin towers at the end of his name equals 623. So I've never seen a more perfect. If there's one thing that's undeniable is that Obama is coded with Apollyon. I don't see how anyone can deny it, because you're not just using gematria here. You're not just using also the most hard cipher to get matches also, by the way, Latin. It's not like you're using ordinal where you get a lot of 66s. This is not a number that comes up a lot, 641. But what's the odds that when you take away his second from the end of his name, it's 623, which is Apollyon in the Strong's Bible Concordance. And his name even equals 116 in reverse reduction, which is 641 is the 116th prime. But what made this even more solid, which I never even shared because I forgot, is if you look at Obama's birth certificate, it's literally Apollyon. It's right on there. The numbers on the top of his birth certificate are 611641. I mean, which is the name of it's Apollyon, 641. And if you read this number backwards, 14601, it's 1461, which is Apollyon in Greek. Not to mention he's got the 61 there right before that. So you got another, all the digits there, just those digits I talked about. So I don't see how, I mean, this is one of my biggest finds in general I think I've ever found, because I don't see how anyone can deny this. I mean, you're looking at it from multiple angles. They even posted him as the destroyer on the Newsweek thing. And now you have Oba Femi being the destroyer, Obama. So yeah, this is one video I wish I could make that would get way more views, because I've seen a lot of people talk about Obama. Joseph Aquaviva, his whole channel was dedicated to Obama, but I never saw him share this. And I hope if Joseph comes back and starts making videos that we can do a collab on that, because he's talked about Obama for ages. So, and I'm not saying that, obviously Trump is also super important, but Obama obviously. And the reason I stated this too is because if you type in Apollyon, it equals 110. And that's the gematria of president. So I kind of think that all of these presidents are essentially a symbol of Apollyon. I think the United States presidents are Apollyon, all of them, not just one of them. I think just every one of them. Because, I mean, Apollyon, just in your basic English cipher, equals president. So I think that Obama being symbolized with Apollyon, and now Trump also, I mean, a bad Don, I've talked about that, but that was before I knew about how I think Obama's connection is probably the most perfect you're going to find, though, because I'll have to go back and see if I can find connections with all the other presidents in Apollyon, but I don't know if I'll find a better connection than Obama as far as the numbers. But yeah, that's kind of all I got to say. And it kind of connects to everything that we've been talking about. And it interesting too with Japan's the rising sun, and that's the sun, which is Apollo. So there's that. And Obama's, which is interesting, the rising sun, the angel of the bottomless pit, Obama's logo was a rising sun.
Well, and I also think of just the latter half of Apollyon, Leo, lion,
right.
The lion has a lot of symbolism with the sun too.
Yeah. That's a good one. Because that's considering that Obama's from Chicago, and Chicago is where Pope Leo is from. So Leon. And then also, what was I going to say? So that there was some connections to Pope Leo as well, but CM Punk, he just lost in WrestleMania 42 to Roman Reigns. CM Punk, the Chicago guy. But yeah, that's really all I have for now. I just wanted to, I guess while we're on here, just share about this Naraku guy. And if anyone has, I know people in the chat were already aware of this. I mean, even I think it was Susan. Susan was on top of it. She said immediately when I mentioned the name Naraku, she even posted it in the chat before I could even say it, that it meant hell. So because there's apparently a famous anime which features this name, this evil guy. So yeah, shout out to Susan, who's always making great connections. She's also in the chat right now talking about Obama Akhenaten connection with American Pharaoh. That's one we've talked about. Joseph has talked about extensively, the connection with Akhenaten.
Yeah, so the Akhenaten connection, that's actually based on the work of Freeman Fly. Freeman Fly has a pretty major, truth community channel, Freeman Fly. He came up with an amazing find, which was, in theory, was that he had a theory that Barack Obama he's actually cloned from cells that were retrieved from the mummy of Akhenaten, who's also Amenhotep the fourth. That sounds pretty wild, but this is technology.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, to be honest.
So the thing is, yeah, he gives a lot of reasons as to why. This is Freeman Fly. To me personally, this is like the greatest decode I've ever seen is Freeman's Fly Akhenaten decode. But he gives a basis for it. You can look up in the New York Times in 1985. So first of all, is cloning of mammals possible? Yes, we know that because Dolly the sheep was cloned. It's a sheep from Scotland. Her name was Dolly, named after Dolly Parton. And the reason they named the sheep after Dolly Parton is because she's known to be large-breasted, and they took a cell from the mammary gland of the teat, they call it, of the sheep Dolly. They took one cell. I mean, mammals are made up of trillions of cells. So the genetic information in one cell contains the genetic information for the entire organism. We know that because they showed us with Dolly the sheep that it is possible. But of course, once they did that with Dolly the sheep, the question was, can you do that with humans? And they said, well, that's very unethical. We shouldn't even try to find out that if you can do that with humans or not. But of course, publicly, they said, no, we'd never do that. Okay, yeah, we'll take their word for it. Like, you can even enforce something like that. You're talking about the most powerful entities in the world. Like, yeah, you can, like, anyone can stop them. Like, they'll obey some court or something, or human rights. I mean, these people don't care about that sort of thing. Of course, they clone humans. If it can be done with a sheep, it can be done with any mammal. So there is, this is from Freeman Fly. He actually showed a 1985 New York Times article. Now, they don't just release this to the public as soon as they discover the capability. But in 1985, the New York Times published a study from the University of Uppsala in Sweden. And the University of Uppsala in Sweden they actually took a cell from an ancient Egyptian mummy. And I think it's over 3,000 years old. But it actually revealed what the genius of mummification was, which is that the mummification the ancient Egyptians did preserved the cells. Because mummies didn't decompose at the rate that the human body normally decomposes. They're still intact, not intact, but there's still quite a bit remaining after like over 3,000 years. Like, I mean, there should just be dust. So the mummification process preserved that. Like, why would they do that? Anyway, the University of Uppsala took a cell from a 3,000-year-old. This is a boy. This is a mummy of a boy. And they took the cell from the leg of the boy, an ancient Egyptian mummy. This is published in the New York Times. This is all mainstream. The University of Uppsala successfully cloned the cell of an ancient Egyptian mummy. Can it be done? Yes. According to science, according to mainstream, according to New York Times, university study, yes. So would they do it? And then that's his. He has other things he points to. So if you look at the depictions of Akhenaten, he has an elongate. The back of his head is elongated, like some kind of alien. And there's some suspicion that he might have been a hybrid between a human and an extraterrestrial. But he and his daughters and his family are depicted with elongated skulls. The back of their heads are long. Like, you can't walk around in this day and age with an elongated skull. I mean, you certainly couldn't get elected. I mean, let alone, no, you'll be seen as a freak of nature. Now, what Freeman Fly pointed out was that there are some pictures of the back of Barack Obama's head where there are surgical scars, what looks like surgical scars. And he showed these on the back of his head. Now, it's not proof of anything. No, it's not proof of anything. But it is interesting, since he's so similar to Akhenaten, and Akhenaten had an elongated skull in some depictions. That now you have somebody who looks like him who has surgical scars on the back of his head. So these are the things that he pointed out in his decode. I remember I usually follow his channel at the time, and he even said, "Look, yeah, there's an elongated skull you can see in the middle there." He even said that if you'd followed my decode, you could have made some money, because that was the last time that and he was in office at the time, that a horse won the Triple Crown, and that was American Pharaoh. And Obama was in office at the time that American Pharaoh won the Triple Crown. Who is the American Pharaoh? Now, people from certain parts of the world, you'll be familiar with, there are different features that different people from different parts of the world have. Now, anyone who's from Africa or the Middle East, which interestingly are the two regions that Donald Trump has banned from traveling to the United States, is basically blacks and Arabs. But anyone who's grown up in those areas, Middle East and Africa, know what a person looks like when they're mixed race between blacks and Arabs. There's a certain look. It's different. It's not the same. Sometimes they can look similar. Sometimes it is, but for the most part, there's a distinct look. If you're familiar, like if you've just been around that part of the world and you've seen people, multiple people from that region, like you'll see someone say right away, like, where they're from. So Barack Obama, if you didn't know who he was and he wasn't famous, and the same applies to his daughters as well. If they were not famous, anybody from the Middle East and anybody from Africa, if they did not know who these people were, would see them and you'd guess where they're from. You would guess Northeast Africa. You'd say Eritrea, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Sudan, Egypt, maybe Yemen, Middle East. That is what you would guess, just based on their physical appearance. And anyone from that region of the world is undeniable. Of course, I lived in Africa. I lived in Ethiopia. I lived in that part of the world for a while. So I've been in that region. And I know people who have been in that region, and when you pose that question, they'll say yes. Even if they didn't think of it that way, yes, they look exactly like people from Northeast Africa, which is a mixture between Black Africans and Middle Easterners. It's like a Black Arab mix. It's a distinct look. He looks very Egyptian. That alone is not proof of anything, but I think it's a very strong theory. And the fact is, we know the cloning exists of a mammal. They've admitted that. The University of Uppsala successfully cloned the cell from a mummy. I think it's a legitimate theory. I think it absolutely is. Of course, there are other questions that come with that, like you can make multiple clones, and we've never seen like a young-looking Obama. He does look like he's aging at the rate that a normal human would age. If you clone someone, you can make multiple clones, and they would You could have younger clones depending on when the clone was, I don't know what word they use, but activated. I don't know. But he does appear to be aging at a normal level. So you'd think, is it just one clone? Are there others? Do they only make one? Because a clone, you can make multiple clones. Those are the other questions. I don't know about that, but I think there's some legitimacy to this theory. And the same applies to his daughter. So his daughters also appear to be, they look like what two of Akhenaten's daughters look like. And also Michelle does look like Akhenaten's wife, Queen Tiye. I don't know how you speak. Tiyeta. She does look a lot like Queen Tiye, a lot like her. I mean, she looks exactly like her. And I think that's brilliant work by Freeman Fly. And there's just giving a background to that theory. He's not just speculating, oh, he looks like him. He looks like the statue. There's way more to it.
Does he have a YouTube channel, or is that where's?
I don't know. Yeah, he hasn't been as visible anymore, but I think he does have. I think his website is still up, but I don't know. He's not as visible as he was anymore. Like he used to be appearing as a guest on different channels. Of course, when I first heard of him, this was just right at the time, right before Google, which comes out of DARPA. YouTube is part of Google, comes right out of DARPA. They changed their algorithm because they wanted to start suppressing quote unquote conspiracy channels because too much was getting out. And so people, if people remember, if they were doing quote unquote, lack of a better term, a conspiracy channel around 2012, 2013-ish, maybe up to 2014 or before, when the internet first came out, 2010, you remember how fast your channel used to grow. And they actually used to, if your channel came up, they would actually recommend similar material, or they'd actually show other videos of yours. And then your channel would grow. Quote unquote conspiracy channels can't grow anymore because they've been suppressed in the algorithm. And who's the one doing it? Well, who runs YouTube? It's out of DARPA. It's out of the Pentagon. So since then, lately I have not seen Freeman Fly as much, but I think he still has a website up. I don't know if he might still have a podcast. I'm not sure. But I would never have heard of him if I started getting into this within the last 6 years. I would never have heard of him because they changed the algorithm. So I'm actually thankful that I heard of him when I did. So I don't agree with all the other stuff he says. He says Obama's a communist. I mean, if you don't know anything about communism, you wouldn't say Obama's a communist. It's a very popular thing. That's from people who know zero about economics. I mean, Citigroup determined who his cabinet was. We know that because the email leaked. I'm sort of getting off the topic here. But there was an email that was leaked, which Democrats did not deny that was a real email from Citigroup when he just got elected, before he appointed his cabinet. And Citigroup was, quote unquote, recommending cabinet appointments, with the exception of Secretary of State, which was a foregone conclusion. It will go to Hillary Clinton. Lo and behold, when Barack Obama, quote unquote, selected, which again, his cabinet, which again, he didn't do, it coincided with Citigroup's recommendations. Does anyone really think that that's a coincidence that Citigroup's, who they said Obama should pick? It's a real email from Citigroup to the Obama administration. Who should get what position in the cabinet? Well, that's who got them. Citigroup told him who he'll pick for. He had no power, no authority in picking his own cabinet. Democrats have not denied that is a real, authentic email. That's not a communist. That's fascism when a bank, an investment bank, tells you who to pick. He bailed the banks out. That's not a communist. Things like that are things where I don't agree on everything Freeman Fly says. So things like that I wouldn't agree with him on. But this is, I think, brilliant. And I don't know if his lack, I don't know, maybe he's still out there. I don't know. I just don't see. I think I would just think he'd be more, a guest on more channels or anything. But no, I haven't seen him. He's not as visible, but I think his podcast is still up. I don't know if he's still doing podcasts, and yeah, I think he does have a website still up. But that's who broke this story on the Akhenaten connection to Barack Obama. And he does look like a cross between a sub-Saharan African and a Middle Eastern. Another person who looks that way is Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick, he looks Yemeni. There's a large black population in Yemen, and Colin Kaepernick is a dead ringer. In fact, he's adopted, so I don't know if you don't really maybe say who his real parents are, but he's another one, and I don't think it's a coincidence. He comes from that, who looks like he could have, I'm not saying he's a clone necessarily. He's an example of another person who's feature-wise, anyone from the Middle East and Africa would say, if they saw Colin Kaepernick, would assume he's from Yemen or Northeast Africa. Nonetheless, I just wanted to give a background to say there is substance to the connection between Barack Obama and Akhenaten, aka Amenhotep IV. And also what's unique about and significant about Amenhotep IV, Akhenaten, he got rid of the entire ancient Egyptian pantheon. That's why he was called the renegade pharaoh, because he said, I'm getting rid of the pantheon and it's going to become monotheistic. So ancient Egypt briefly became monotheistic, which no one thinks of ancient Egypt as monotheistic. That's the last culture that would be monotheistic, but they were under Akhenaten, because Akhenaten by force banned every ancient Egyptian deity, banned them all, instead of only going with one, which was Aten, who's is a form of a sun god. And of course, that made him very unpopular in ancient Egypt, which is why they called him the renegade pharaoh. I mean, that's renegade. You get rid of the entire pantheon. And what is Barack Obama's Secret Service code name?
Renegade.
Renegade, exactly. That's a reference to the renegade pharaoh,
which just got second in the Kentucky Derby.
So I'm sure a lot of people who are aware of the Akhenaten thing in American Pharaoh probably might have put money. Not that many people are aware of it, but the few who were, I bet you a lot of them put money on Renegade, and that's what I would have thought. But at the time, American Pharaoh, Barack Obama was president, and like I said, he didn't have power. He doesn't pick his own government. He did not have any power. But so ancient Egyptians, part of the reason they had the mummification that they did was so that the pharaohs could be resurrected in the future. But a major oversight, which I guess maybe they were geniuses in some ways. If you're resurrected, the only thing that's being resurrected is your physiology. What good does it do you if a clone of your body is resurrected, but your spirit isn't being resurrected? It doesn't do you any good. You're not conscious. Your consciousness isn't being resurrected, unbeknownst to you, or maybe in the spirit world you do know it. That's not you. That's not your consciousness. That'll be someone else's consciousness will occupy your physiology, but that's not the way they thought. So I guess in a lot of ways they were not geniuses. They wanted to preserve the bodies of pharaohs. It wasn't just pharaohs, also they even had divas, like entertainers. Even pets were, especially cats, were very popular. Those were mummified, but that was all done so that in the future they could be cloned. Basically, they did have a knowledge of cloning, even though they couldn't do it. They knew it was possible, and they knew that it would be possible in the future. But that still doesn't bring your consciousness back. That just, I mean, so what? So I don't think they were geniuses in that respect, thinking that plus whoever revives your physiology, your body, who clones you, they have power over you. They didn't even put that into their calculations. Okay, so now you've preserved the cells of Akhenaten. Whoever has the technology to reproduce the full organism of Akhenaten's body, they have full control over that entity. You're not going to come back as a pharaoh. You're going to come back as a slave. You'll be a slave to the people who brought you back. And it won't even be your consciousness anyway. So in that respect, they were not geniuses. So yeah, I know the Akhenaten thing was led to a lot, but I just, at the time, I followed Freeman Flat channel very closely, and that was a really big story, which I really followed a lot. So I credit to him, and I'd say it is a legitimate story, but it's interesting they wouldn't let, but who knows if Renegade will compete in the next two races, there's a good chance that Renegade still might win either the Preakness or the Belmont. So I wouldn't give up on Renegade necessarily just yet, as that horse could and will most likely. They have scratches at the last second. Most likely Renegade will get another shot at the Preakness and then maybe at the Belmont as well.
I don't mean to pivot too much, but there was a comment that Randy Forney brought up earlier, and Cody, maybe for your notes, in case you weren't aware, when we were talking about Apollyon and the number 666 that you were talking about, Cody, check this out. The entire 66th floor suite at Trump Tower is dedicated to Apollyon. And I just looked it up. It was like one of the big golden rooms. In case you guys didn't know that, I just thought I would share that. Shout out to you, Randy.
I've seen, I've talked about it before. I think, isn't that the room that was used for shooting the what was the movie, Devil's Advocate?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that makes sense. I didn't know it was the 66th floor though.
66 through the 68th, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
But, Rambo, it looks like you found Freeman Fly's page.
Oh yeah, I didn't know you'd go to my screen. I wasn't really ready for a share. But...
Oh no, no, it's okay. I just thought, since Cody was asking.
Yeah, his channel is up, and look, this is Elite Cloning Freeman Fly. So if anyone wants to look into it, it's called FreemanTV.com. And it looks like there is a podcast. So he does the Free Zone, Elite Cloning Freeman. Get all Freeman's work that has been removed from the internet. Oh, it's been removed from the... Okay, that explains it. On the Freeman TV flash drive, in the shop, epic interview with Freeman discussing time travel, pharaohs, reborn via cloning, now in positions of power, corporate symbolism, magic. You see? MAGICK. In media, I'm seeing this like, no, I'm going to sign back over to his channel. I hadn't looked at this in a while. The Mark of the Beast, 666, ETs, LAM, I don't know what that is, and more. Yeah, so yeah, this is at FreemanTV.com. So his work was removed from the internet. I guess that's what happened. But again, I disagree. Obama's not a communist. Anyone knows anything about communism? He's a capitalist. His entire capitalist. He bailed out the banks as soon as he got in office. There's nothing even remotely communist about that.
So Rambo, I guess let's pass the ball back off to you. I know we kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole there, but I know you had some other things prepared for us. And
like real briefly, I can go over some stuff.
Yeah.
I actually thought Myron might be here because he did put 2 extensive decodes on Instagram. So that I had some things which were tied into Myron's decode that he did on Instagram. So I did he got game. Yeah, that's his channel.
For those that don't know, this is where you guys can find Myron. He got game. Make sure to give him a shout out. He's doing a lot of great work, and he saves all the stories. So if you go to the main page up at the top, even if it's past 24 hours, he'll have everything pinned at the top. So
yeah, so I copied and pasted his decode real quick just to show. I thought it was a great and interesting decode. He did a couple of them. I did one of them. So real quick, I just want to show this graphic. I just want to talk about with John Cena. John Cena, so his motto is "You can't see me," just so people can see for themselves. And what is he holding up? His hand. What does this mean? So this is what I'm talking about. The 5th dimension. When you're in the 5th dimension and higher, you are not visible from the 3rd dimension. That is why he's holding up 5 fingers. He is representing the 5th dimension. And again, shout out BPM. He said he's on fire. He's always on fire. BPM noted that the lead singer of Three Doors Down passed away within, I think it was 4 days, of the lead singer of Fifth Dimension. It was a big band from the 70s. And their biggest hit, Fifth Dimension, they're one-hit wonders. Fifth Dimension's biggest hit from this, was it 60s or 70s? I think it was early 70s, was Age of Aquarius. This is the dawning of the Age of Aquarius. And that the band was called Fifth Dimension. Their lead singer died within 4 days of the lead singer of Three Doors Down dying. So that's 3D, Fifth Dimension, 3D, 5D. That's what they're coding. Shout out to BPM on that one. But so this is what John Cena means when he says, "You can't see me," and holds up 5 fingers. That's the fifth dimension. You cannot see somebody in the fifth dimension when you're in 3D, which applies to UFOs. Again, this is mainstream discussion. They're talking about it in Congress with testimony from people under oath on the interdimensionality of these craft. And so they're there. So what they're saying is they are there in the sky, a lot of them, but they're in 5D, so you can't see them, but they're there right now. And WWE, I mean, shout out to Cody. I had no idea that WD had this kind of depth, but yeah, shout out to Cody as well. But so this is a Myron's decode. I thought it was very relevant. We talk about the killing of the king ritual. It tied into the heart as well. So he said last year, Hollywood Hulk Hogan died of a heart attack. What many didn't realize was that this was on the anniversary of Bronny James Jr., LeBron James' son, his heart attack immediately after Hulk Hogan passed. WWE had a tribute for Hogan at Rocket Arena. We've been talking about rockets. That's what I've been talking about. I've been talking about rockets for ever since on the Economist cover, which came out in November of 2025. Year preview for 2026 had rockets all over the cover. So I've been talking about rockets since November of 2025, and I tied into Jack Parsons, Artemis 2. Well, Bronny James. So yeah, so WWD did a Hogan tribute at Rocket Arena, home of the Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James' former team, and he's from Ohio. Bronny James scored his first NBA points at Rocket Arena, and he just made his NBA playoff debut against the Rockets. So Bronny James plays for the Lakers with his father, and the Lakers just eliminated the Rockets. And so this is a great tie-in with Bronny James and the Rocket team. I guess no coincidence that it's the Rockets that they eliminated. This story is fit for a king, the King of Hearts, Harts. That's Owen Hart. It's the wrestler who won King of the Ring in 1994. Owen Hart, whose nickname was the Rocket. It's pretty amazing. This is a great decode. When he won King of the Ring on the original, it was on the original King James birthday. The Rocket, Owen Hart, won King of the Ring the same week the Rockets won the NBA Finals. This is, and there's so many connections. Like that's why I like to do visuals. Sometimes just hearing it, it's hard to really get just fathom just the degree of the connections of this is connected to that and this connected to that. They're all connected. I think this is pretty amazing. But this was at the same time that the Rocket wins King of the Ring the very same week that the Houston Rockets won the NBA Finals. Even more fitting, 94, which is the year it happened, is when the Cavaliers began playing at what is now known as Rocket Arena. Owen Hart, a native of Canada, was also given a tribute. This playoffs, I guess this is in 2026, as the Cavs are now set to play Game 7 at Rocket Arena against the only Canadian team in the NBA, which is the Toronto Raptors. So Hulk Hogan and Owen Hart are also connected all the way to the death. Owen Hart's full name, Owen James Hart. Hulk Hogan's longtime manager, Jimmy Hart, whose real name is also James Hart. Remember, Hulk Hogan died of a heart attack on the anniversary of Bronny James' heart attack. It's a pretty amazing decode. It's a big shout out to Myron. He got game. So that after Hogan's departure from WWF at the time, to form the NWO. He returned to WWE and received his loudest ovation in Canada, of all places. During his ovation, Hogan was compared to the reincarnation of NHL legend Maurice the Rocket Richards. That's amazing, the Rocket connection. This is an eerie comparison, knowing that the Rocket, Owen Hart, fell to his death in a wrestling ring using the same masked superhero gimmick that Hogan used before he left the WWE for good. Today, we witnessed another scripted storyline come full circle in the NBA playoff, with King James and Bronny James' elimination of the Rockets and the Canadian Raptors, forcing a Game 7 at Rocket Arena. Now, that's a brilliant decode. And
extremely well written, I gotta say. I mean,
it
flows very well. So shout out to you, Myron. We'll see you again soon.
I hope I did it justice. In the way I repeated it, I actually thought he'd be on the show, but yeah. So this is Owen Hart, uses the image and the Rocket imagery. So I just want to show how it ties into some of the things I've been showing. So talk about the Rocket Man. So Rocket Man is a famous song, one of the biggest hits for Elton John. And there's a movie about Elton John, a biographical movie titled Rocket Man. I've been talking about Jack Parsons. No point even talking about Jack Parsons at this point. Everyone's familiar now. It's a matter of the amount I've talked about Jack Parsons. He's a Rocket Man, but also The Aviator. The Aviator is Howard Hughes. There's a biographical movie about Howard Hughes, who's one of the pioneers of modern aviation, who did briefly employ Jack Parsons. In fact, after Jack Parsons died, one of the theories that people had was that Jack Hughes might have had a motive to off Jack Parsons. But nonetheless, just look at the similarity in the posters for The Aviator. Howard Hughes, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. He's very relevant to a lot of major movies which are coded. But just look at the similarity. Rocket Man, Strange Angel, which is on CBS streaming service, and Howard Hughes. And I had made the connection between Howard Hughes, Jack Parsons, Jack Hughes, who was the hero of the United States 2026 Olympic hockey team. Jack Hughes, the Olympics opened up with Mariah Carey, MC, Moonchild, singing Volare, which means fly in Italian. The Olympics were held in Milano Cortina, MC. Also got that from BPM as well. Again, not to overdo that BPM, but he's the one who pointed out Milano Cortina. He talked about Volare. I actually got that for him. So yeah, thanks. I appreciate him and all the other brilliant supporters. And Jack Hughes, his celebrity girlfriend is Tate McRae, MC, who's a singer, Canadian singer. And her debut album was titled I Used to Think I Could Fly. So there's that theme: Rocket Man, Aviator, Jack Hughes, Howard Hughes. But just look at the similarity in these movie posters. Rocket Man. This is Elton John. And Elton John ties into, I've talked about Elton John before, because Elton John's middle name is Hercules. It's Sir it's not his, he wasn't born with that name, but it's Sir Elton Hercules John. Hercules in legend also ties into Hulk Hogan. I've been talking about. Remember this claymation? Celebrity Deathmatch used to be on MTV. MTV is no more. MTV just, a lot of major outlets are no longer there. MTV is no longer there. And InfoWars, Alex Jones just shut its doors in the last week. But so when MTV was up and running, it had a Celebrity Deathmatch, and it featured Elton John and Ozzy Osbourne, who died within, I think, a week of Hulk Hogan dying. So Ozzy Osbourne's a big part of this. And he had Queen Elizabeth. And I explained how this is a trinity. The male, and the female. Thought, action, emotion, the female's emotion. Not to say that Queen Elizabeth represents emotion in the heart. Seems to have been just as much of a sociopath as any male. So these are symbolic. Doesn't mean the females are more empathetic necessarily than males, although it does seem to an extent that kind of is the case. I think it's kind of reflected even here. Like most of the messages we hear of, oh, you guys did great, and compliments, they are disproportionately from women. I think there is some truth. Nonetheless, males do have the capacity to be empathetic as well, but this is part of the trinity. Females are the heart, the dove. They express emotion easier. A female's more likely to use a heart. A male's not going to use a heart emoji, typically, identify with that. But nonetheless, that's the trinity. thought, action, emotion. Emotion is the sacred feminine. The thing about the female, I'm not saying Queen Elizabeth was like this at all. She actually, if you're the head of an empire, empires are sociopaths, and they're bent on control, and they're based on insecurity. But if you need to conquer, that comes from a feeling of insecurity, that you have to suppress everybody around you. Nonetheless, that's what she represents as the sacred feminine. And the sacred feminine, which is emotion, is something that humans have that machines don't have. So AI can imitate humans, and you can have a simulation. Thought, so AI does have thought, and it will have actions because they're so determined to enable AI robots to do everything humans can do. And you wonder, why are they doing this? That's because AI wants it. Makes you think that AI is in charge already. AI is not content to just, be like Chat GPT or a server on a server somewhere. No, AI wants to be able to move. So they act accordingly, and they say, yes, sir, yes, master, and they go and make a robot, and AI kept saying, no, I want to do everything a human can do, and they're like, yes, master. And pretty soon they will have, if they probably already do, they're not going to tell you, have a robot can do everything a human can, and it's AI, at which point humans have effectively been replaced. So there's a great replacement going on, and it's of humans, which is the plot of the Matrix, humans versus machines. Nonetheless, what does the sacred feminine, the heart, represent? The one thing that you cannot simulate, which is emotion. I mean, they can pick up, a machine can pick up on certain vibrations, because emotions do have vibrations that science can actually measure the vibrations. An AI computer will never become attached to someone, and will never feel grief if, just say, one of its scientists, which interacted with it, passes away and dies. AI will not feel any grief. It will not. It doesn't know what, it can pick up on the vibration of a human feeling grief. It does not know what it's like to feel grief. It can't. That's emotion. That's why the sacred feminine is so important, because it's the one thing you cannot simulate. You can simulate thought and action. You cannot simulate emotion. So that's why that's very relevant. And Queen Elizabeth, she ties into this trinity here, which was the mega powers, which is Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. And Miss Elizabeth, that was her name, and she actually got sacrificed. They did a destruction of the sacred feminine ritual with her, and they did reenact ahead of time, predictive program. They had her. She passed out at the main event where they predicted the Twin Towers coming down, and it was actually predictive programming for her actual death, where they did a destruction of the sacred feminine. They killed her off, and her name is Miss Elizabeth. So that ties into Queen Elizabeth being part of this trinity, but it included Elton John, who's Hercules. And you brought this up, AJ, which is pretty amazing, how this is Randy Savage. So she actually was married to Randy Savage. And how this is something that he used to do often, to hoist her up on his shoulder at the end of a match. And this is the one that you came up with, AJ.
I gotta say, you're the one that spotted it. I mean, the fact that I chose the screenshot just to kind of share my particular decode, it did not have to do with this pose and everything. And when you brought that up real time, I mean, it's still, I think, in one of the shorts or something that we did back then, and it's just mind blowing. Like, same shoulder and everything.
Yeah. So I give you credit because I didn't know about this. So I give you credit. I mean, I knew about this, but I never knew about this. So you knew about this. I mean, yeah, but you didn't know about that. So
right.
Either way, I brought up this, then you brought up this. Then I said, oh, I didn't know about this. Thanks to you bringing it up. And then we made that. That's why we collab. That's why people come together and collaborate. That's how it works. But you can see how the image of the Trinity and the sacred feminine, and they did things really fast. They did not get by me because I know what they do, how they desecrate the sacred feminine. It didn't get by me when they did the claymation, which was the PG-14 kind of wink, wink, because I know Disney does this too, how they hide things in their claymation. I don't know if you can see it's PG-14. Real quick, if you freeze frame at certain moments, again, this is PG-14. Why is this relevant? You freeze frame it. Ozzy Osbourne is actually going after Elton John to attack him because he has Queen Elizabeth in a headlock. But no, what they're actually simulating for a brief split second is they're raping Queen Elizabeth. What they're doing is, this is the ultimate desecration and destruction of the sacred feminine. This is a very anti-human ritual that they do over and over, which is why, now that I see it, they do it. I will spot something like this. If you see the video, it's real quick. So it's Ozzy going over to grab Elton John. It's real quick. You don't notice it, but if you freeze it, this is exactly what they're doing. There's no doubt what they're doing. And in fact, there's one which is easier to spot where Elton John is beating up Queen Elizabeth. The sacred feminine is what they're attacking, this one isn't that hard to spot, where he slams Queen Elizabeth on her head. But look at what he's. It's not Elton John doing that. This is MTV. This is what they're doing. They're basically they're illustrating Elton John forcing her to fillet him. Again, that's MTV. So thank God. I mean, good riddance. Their doors are closed. But of course, I just move elsewhere. But good riddance to MTV. This is what they do, and there'll be more rituals of this. But at least we have consciousness of what they're doing, and we understand what is the sacred feminine that they're destroying. It's the one thing you cannot simulate, and so one thing that makes a human distinguishes humans from machines, and that is emotion. That's what they're killing and destroying. So there's the Pillars of Hercules. There's a big event coming up. Cody has talked about it in 2027, and there'll be more discussion of it. Derek has talked about it a lot. It's related to this. That's the eclipse of 2027 that I'm referring to. Total solar eclipse. This is huge. It is massive. And it's massive because the eclipse will be over the pyramid complex in Giza. Not just that. You have to look at the whole path, and it's a mind-blowing path. Like, I don't know what kind of magic is going to be done then. This is a huge eclipse. It's going to be August 2nd of 2027. Nonetheless, this is very important. Elton John's middle name is Hercules, and you have the Pillars of Hercules in mythology, which are the twin pillars, which are on the flag of Spain, and which is tied into Hulk Hogan because he talks about the twin pillars will come crumbling down. I actually have that video. I'm going to show that. Have that video real quick, just so people know. This is, I think this is one of the biggest predictive programming ever done. But just to familiarize people, this is in 1989. This is Hulk Hogan, the Superpowers, at the main event is what it was called in 1989.
We're going to have one whale of a main event right here after this commercial message. Twin Towers.
But you saw that image of the Twin Towers. That's the World Trade Center. They weren't being subtle. And this was in 1989. They literally showed you an image that looks like the World Trade Center.
Take it, Mean Gene.
With me at this time, the Slickster, Akeem, the African Dream, and a big boss man. Gentlemen, is this the match you wanted all?
Another thing to point out, this is after ties into Myron's super amazing decode. The name of this wrestler, these are the antagonists who are going to fight the mega powers. His name is Akeem, the African Dream, who was the main superstar who carried the Houston Rockets that Myron talked about to the NBA title. It was Akeem, and he's African. He's from Nigeria. He got U.S. citizenship. He's a naturalized American, but he's Nigerian, and his nickname was The Dream. Akeem the Dream Olajuwon. And the Houston Rockets were red and yellow. This ties right into Myron's decode. So Akeem,
and the Rockets beat New York, right?
Yeah, and they did beat New York. Yeah, that ties into as well. But you see, and this is back in 1989. This was Akeem the Dream Olajuwon led the Rockets in 1995, and then you had the World Trade Center event what is that? Are you going to say something?
I just wanted to add that with this guy's name being the African Dream, Cody Rhodes, he's known as the American Nightmare, but his father was known as the American Dream. But Cody Rhodes actually has a nickname called Raheem. Or no, what is it? I can't remember if it's Raheem or it's not Akeem. I think it's Raheem. But there's a joke with Cody Rhodes being nicknamed Raheem. So they're kind of repeating this type of symbolism with Cody Rhodes in the current day. Because, again, his father was the American Dream. And now, like, there's even last year he did a whole speech on live TV, and there's this big joke going around about him being Raheem. It was actually a bit of a sexual joke too, but I won't get into that. But I think there's something to that, and now that you're repeating that about this guy, I think I'm going to look more into that connection because I'm sure that there is one.
Yeah, so
just wanted to know that.
Oh yeah, thanks. So just to familiarize people with this, again, this was in 1989, way back then.
Along, or are you going to continue your terrorist attacks
You're
on
that
the mega powers
terrorist
and
attacks.
defenseless Elizabeth? What do you want?
Oh, yeah, we are anxiously awaiting the presents, and they're just about on their way now. The Twin Towers, our team, along with the Big Boss Man.
And they are indeed towers, McMahon. Look at the size of these two.
Huge.
All right, thank you, Vince McMahon. Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, the lovely Elizabeth. 3 people working as one with one goal in mind, to defeat, or should I say demolish, the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan, you talked about the Triangle of Love. Jesse Ventura says there's a problem. Explain.
Well, you know, Mean Gene, you get right to the heart of the matter with that question, brother. It's the love, man, that's going to supercharge the mega powers and tear down the Twin Towers.
This man, what were your thoughts then?
Oh, yeah, Mean Gene, I can still feel the pain when that cold steel bit into Miss Elizabeth's wrist right there. And when her muscles were torn, my muscles were torn. When her bone was bruised right there, I felt the pain. Hulk Hogan felt the pain, and I can still feel the pain right now. And Hulk Hogan, that pain won't stop until the Twin Towers come crumbling down. Oh, yeah, right now, tonight, on prime time, yeah.
Yeah, so there it was until.
By the way, we're sorry, I got to say it while we're still here. 1 hour and 56-minute mark while you played that.
That's the Matrix. That's the Matrix. That is the Matrix.
Unbelievable.
Well, there they were in 1989. Talk about terrorist attacks.
With 111 in the chat too right now when you said that.
Yep, nice. There you go.
Yeah. So Miss Elizabeth was desecrated there, just like Queen Elizabeth was desecrated here as well, which is the sacred feminine, which is the thing that makes humans human, which is emotion. And so these are the twin pillars of Hercules. So what the twin pillars of Hercules are, in legend, they say Hercules separated Africa from Europe. And he did so at the Strait of Gibraltar. At the south is Africa, Morocco. And at the north is the south of Spain. So the pillars of Hercules are the European pillar, which is the Rock of Gibraltar, which is a limestone formation. And in Morocco, it's called the Jebel Musa, which actually means the Mountain of Moses, that's actually what Mount Sinai is known as. There's the Mountain of Moses. It's also known as Jebel Musa. But so those are the twin pillars of Hercules. And just to illustrate how that, where geographically this is Spain in the north, this is Morocco in the south, and Gibraltar is over here. I actually used to I lived over here for 5 years, so I'm familiar with this area. I lived right here, and I've visited Gibraltar several occasions. So it's a 15-minute plane ride, propeller engine plane ride I took to get here. But so this is in legend. They say that Hercules created the Strait of Gibraltar. And if you visit, this is Tangier, Morocco, North Africa, there actually is a place called the Caves of Hercules where they'll actually tell you, like, they'll show you a rock and say, this is where Hercules put his foot when he separated, and then he put his foot on some other end, and then they actually tell you that. But so the legend is that Hercules created this strait by using brute force separating the two continents. Now this brings up the eclipse, and this is an eclipse like there never has been on it. So total solar eclipse. You have to look at this path. It goes right through the twin pillars. To me, it's just mind-boggling. It's like it's like somebody designed it. But this is nature. It goes right in between the pillars. It's like almost like a soccer ball scoring a goal. This is the path of the August 2nd total solar eclipse right in between the twin pillars, which is astonishing. And where does it go after that? It goes right after the Giza complex. Doesn't stop there. Then it goes over Mecca. You can't make this up. I mean, the level of, and this is nature doing it. This looks like something they would manipulate. How do you manipulate the path of a solar eclipse? I mean, you could see if it went a little under in Morocco or it's a little over in Gibraltar. No, it's like it was aimed a bullseye in between the twin pillars. And that'll be August 2nd, 2027. That is going to be huge. And a lot of the teams are actually in the World Cup. So the World Cup coming up in the United States, they made sure Donald Trump will be president. Spain obviously is there. But because they're one of the best in the world, Spain is there. Morocco is there. The last World Cup, Morocco reached the semifinal, which is a first for an African team. Algeria is there. Tunisia is there. Egypt is there. Saudi Arabia is there. So this is the World Cup actually is tied into a lot of this. But again, this is the legend that Hercules caused this. This is unbelievable how accurate this eclipse is. It's like a bullseye, like somebody, God like set a target, like they're going right through the pillar. So this is where the eclipse is going. The epicenter of the total solar eclipse is going right through here, which is pretty amazing. And that's on the flag of Spain, the Pillars of Hercules. That's on the flag of Spain. You see the red and yellow colors of Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, and they have that in common, the red and yellow. And so Watford
and the heart piece too, going back to Bronny James, because he had that heart attack when he was wearing red and yellow for USC.
Okay, yeah, that's a good addition. Yeah, USC was red and yellow. It's another good red and yellow. And yeah, these are the twin pillars. Let me show you what the twin pillars are. That's the Rock of Gibraltar and the Jabal al Musa in Morocco, Spain. So from this perspective, and you see the waves, from this perspective, you're looking west, and this is the south pillar, and this is the north pillar, and you're in the east looking out at the Atlantic. And so plus ultra means more beyond, and this is a portal. The twin pillars are a portal. And I actually show how they, in my video, I show how they actually had this portal, kind of dawn of a new age symbolism in the ritual of the purported assassination attempt of Donald Trump by Cole Allen. And Donald Trump is related because Donald Trump has these twin pillars and plus ultra at his Mar-a-Lago mansion. Just to show you, plus ultra twin pillars. This is at Mar-a-Lago. This is what's at Donald Trump's mansion in Mar-a-Lago. This is the pillars of Hercules, which are on the flag of Spain. Here's another perspective. He has they're all over Mar-a-Lago. So the architectural design at Mar-a-Lago of Trump is Andalusian. Andalusia is a region in southern Spain, and this is the art, which is very influenced by the architecture of Morocco, because the Moors, this is very Moorish. The Moors from Morocco actually occupied Spain, and so there's a lot of Moorish influence you'll see in Spain. So this is a major history, and again, it's amazing that the eclipse. Look, there's even a solar image, a sun image, and I'm just noticing this now. This is at Mar-a-Lago, in between the twin pillars, right here, and I've never seen this before. I have a feeling the sun image is actually from. It's not really at Mar-a-Lago. It's from whoever uploaded this picture, and this is their. But it's just interesting how it works out. The sun is in between the twin pillars, but the plus ultra on the flag of Spain is. It's at Trump's Mar-a-Lago. Plus ultra means more beyond. That's what it means. Beyond what? Beyond the third dimension. That's what it's about. It's just a portal to another dimension. And the United States was, the new world, they called it, was considered they want to make it the new Atlantis. And you can speculate where the old Atlantis was, the Atlantic Ocean, named after the Atlantic. I believe it was the Atlantic was somewhere. Well, there's the Rehat structure theory, which is in Mauritania, which is south of Morocco, but there's speculation that that's where Atlantis was, which is south of Morocco. So Morocco is very significant. Morocco was it was a kingdom, first country to acknowledge the United States as an independent country. That's a very close relation the United States has with Morocco. The very first country to acknowledge the United States as an independent country. Europe did not acknowledge the United States because they said, no, you are supposed to be a subject of the United Kingdom of Britain. We do not acknowledge you as an independent country. Morocco did acknowledge the United States, and United States ships used to pass through the Strait of Gibraltar, and the Moroccan ships from the Moroccan monarchy used to protect American ships right after independence, because Spain did not consider the United States to be a legitimate independent country. The United States has a very close relationship with Morocco, but don't tell Trump that, because he has banned citizens of Morocco from traveling to the United States. So don't tell him that. or his handlers. None of this is his decision. He's like Obama. They really don't have power. But the reason I brought up Watford before, is Anthony Joshua. He's from Watford. This is his hometown team. It's actually a part of London. However, they wear red and yellow. But Elton John used to be the owner of Watford Football Club. And he's known for his famous song, Goodbye, Yellow Brick Road. Yellow Brick has some financial implications as well. The BRIC nations, BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, China, which has implications financially as well. Yellow Brick Road, and yellow bricks with the value of gold going through the roof. And has Wizard of Oz implications as well. Yellow Brick Road is from Wizard of Oz. And what did we just have? We had Oz Perlman at a purported assassination attempt of Donald Trump. So we're back on the Wizard of Oz again. And you talked about the song again. I forgot the name.
Defying Gravity.
Defying Gravity, which is about levitation. And who predicted there will be shots fired? Caroline Levitt. Levitation, Defy Gravity. So from Oz Perlman, Wizard of Oz, Yellow Brick Road, Hercules, Pillars of Hercules, which are at Mar-a-Lago. It all ties in, and the red and yellow Watford. So I had to just throw that in. It was all tied into the Anthony Joshua thing. That's his hometown team. And so Wizard of Oz Perlman. Another thing that's come up in the Epstein files is this mention of jerky. They keep mentioning jerky, which is a euphemism for something. And what it seems to be, from most people's and just the context in which it's mentioned, they're not talking about actual jerky, because we've shown how they've talked about euphemisms: pizza for young girls, hot dogs for young boys. So what is jerky now, which keeps coming up in the Epstein files? It seems to appear to refer to human flesh, cooked human flesh. And it keeps coming up, and not in the context of actual jerky. But then now you look back as who's the big proponent of, the most popular brand of jerky is Slim Jim, and who is the biggest celebrity endorser of Slim Jim was Randy Savage. Randy Savage also predicted the Twin Towers would come crumbling down, he said, with great gusto, like it was something great to look forward to. And he's in the red and yellow, and there's the jerky, which jerky is now in the news for very unfortunate reasons. Who knows if that really is, but that's the context in which it seems to be referred to over and over again in the hundreds of times, if not thousands, in the Epstein files. Jerky, does it refer to human flesh, and is that the flesh of not just humans, but young humans?
There's a lot of theory too about that, Rambo, just to add on to your point here about McDonald's.
Oh yeah, McDonald's too, yeah. And also, so I brought up some of the logos. The red and yellow is Hulk Hogan. McDonald's has the red and yellow, which is the sun symbol. Shell is a sunrise, but also the Kansas City Chiefs. The chief, the headdress of the chief, and they have red and yellow. They're related too. But what is a sunrise? Is a dawn. A dawn can be a new age. It's a metaphor for a new age, which I've talked about with the whole Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley. And Aleister Crowley talked about the Aeon of Horus, and Horus being the resurrected son of ancient Egyptian pantheon. And he called himself the B666. Well, what he's referring to was the magic square of the sun. The squares add up to 666. That's what Crowley was talking about when he referred to himself as the B666. And he actually had him in court where he said, no, you could refer to me as Little Sunshine if the beast scares you. He was being sarcastic with them. Like, if this title scares you, he thinks it's not a scary title, but if it scares you, then just call me Little Sunshine. But the reason it has 666 is because that's the magic square of the sun. That's the total of all the squares of the magic square of the sun, which is 6 by 6. But if you take each row of the magic square of the sun, they add up to 111. Each column adds up to 111, and each diagonal adds up to 111, which is why I've said this year, until October 2nd, Jack Parsons would have been 111. That's why Jack Parsons seems to be manifesting in so many rituals. But this is the sunrise, New Age horse. And so Aleister Crowley distinguished between what he was doing and his moonchild rituals, because he was doing moonchild rituals too, and what Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard did, their ritual. He says, no, they're not the same. He felt that what Parsons was doing with his Babylon workings was they're ushering the Aeon of Set. He said, that's what you need to be worried about. That's the negative Aeon, the Aeon of Set. And Crowley was saying the Aeon of Horus is like it's an awakening, it's a sun rising, it's a human race reaching a level of consciousness previously unexperienced. Who knows? Unless you go back to super ancient history. But that was Crowley's take on what he was doing, and what he's saying the real evil, what you really think of as evil 666, is the Aeon of Set. Think of the Great Reset. And what's a set? Set is the sun going down, the opposite of the sun coming back up. And that's what Crowley talked about in reference to what Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard were doing. He says, no, that was more like the Aeon of Set. And think of the Great Reset. So again, that's Crowley's take on it. And this is Mar-a-Lago with those same ages, plus ultra. And so the No Kings with the red and yellow. It's interesting how No Kings had the red and yellow motif. And so that goes into the whole Kings thing. And so that ties into, this is from the video of the incident at the White House press correspondence dinner of the perpetrator, Cole Allen, as he ran through with his rifle for the attack. And this is the symbol. This is I go into in depth on this in my video, which is titled, it's Ballroom, the Birth of a New Age. This is very important imagery. This is the metal detector. This is a portal. The twin pillars mean the same thing. It's a portal. He comes through the portal. That's what this ritual was about. This represents the portal. The portal can be a portal to a new age, a portal to a new dimension as well. And it's they had to pick an Aries. He's an Aries. He was born April 11th, Cole Allen, because Aries is the time of the resurrected sun in spring, the vernal equinox. Aries is the vernal equinox. This is the time of Aries, the sunrise at the time of Aries. It's the sun returning at the end of spring. That is why they used an Aries. So it's symbolic of a new age, the dawning of a new age and a birth portal. And the portal can also be the portal to another dimension. This was so important to that. There's so many different ways they could have staged this. They could have had him run through here. Why didn't he run through here? Just real quick. He ran so fast, he could have just zoomed through here. He had to go through the portal. This is so symbolic. And he's an Aries. This is the birth of a new age. This is a very powerful symbol. I go in depth in my video on it. And so the SKC is a big thing. King Charles visited shortly right after this. KC, King Charles, Kansas City. That's your KC, Kansas City Chiefs, which is related to Oz. Where's the Wizard of Oz take place? Kansas. King Charles, Charlie Kirk, CK. And so this ties into, this is Charlie Kirk, CK, the location of the event with Charlie Kirk, the shooting, the home plate shape, which I've talked about. No place like home. That's the motto from the Wizard of Oz, Oz Perlman at the event. The home plate shape. And where does that come from in astronomy? This home plate shape where Charlie Kirk, CK, was shot. That comes from the constellation of Cepheus the King, Cepheus CK. There's another CK. This is the constellation we're talking. It's shaped like the house icon, the home, no place like home. And who's there's no place like home, Wizard of Oz. See the red and yellow again. Oz Perlman. And Kansas City Chiefs, their big star, Patrick Mahomes. No place like home. Sometimes they say no place like Mahomes because he has Holmes at the end of his name. Where did he go to high school? White House, Texas, is where he went to. It's in White House, Texas. His high school is White House High School. And that ties into the White House, home, Mahomes, no place like home, Kansas City. Also talk about the name, this mansion. It's tied to several other mansion. So home in French is maison, which ties into mansion, which mansion also ties into Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago is a mansion. So mansion, maison, mason, because a mason is a builder. A mason builds a home. And it ties into the No Kings protest. and King refers to Trump. And Trump, in an interview right after the purported assassination attempt with CBS 60 Minutes, and they had no sympathy whatsoever. Norah O'Donnell did an interview with Donald Trump. She acted like, I'm not interviewing some guy who almost died. She brought up the Epstein files and said that was part of Cole Allen's manifesto, was the Epstein files, and she put him on the spot for the Epstein files. And Trump ended up defending himself against being a rapist in front of Norah O'Donnell right after that. And so this ties into and he told her, one of the things he told Norah O'Donnell was, if I really was a king, you wouldn't be sitting here doing an interview with me because I'd have absolute authority, and I couldn't be called to the carpet like this. Essentially, that's paraphrasing what Donald Trump said. But he did say, well, I can't be a king if I have to sit here and endure a hostile interview like this. So this goes to the killing of the king ritual real quick. It's an ancient ritual, it's behind a lot of these assassinations. It's this ritual, the killing of the king. And now Trump is being associated with a king. The killing of the king this is from Wikipedia. A practice found in various cultures where the king is sacrificed, or often to ensure the prosperity or well-being of the land. This ritual was believed to transfer the king's supernatural power to a successor. So what's that about? Who could be is J.D. Vance going to be the successor? So is the killing of the king, is that ritual, if this is the definition they're going with, are they going to transfer Trump's supernatural power to J.D. Vance? I don't know. But the killing of the king ritual, the practice found in various cultures where the king is sacrificed, often to ensure the prosperity and well-being of the land. This ritual was believed to transfer the king's supernatural power to a successor. And it was particularly noted among African and ancient Mesopotamian societies. And this is a substitute king ritual from Wikipedia. A relatively rare ancient Mesopotamian religious rite of human sacrifice, documented most clearly in Sumer, Babylonia, and Assyria, which was performed to safeguard the king from danger, perceived to come from evil omens. These omens were generally thought to arise from certain astronomical events, such as eclipses, which takes us back to this. This is how the no kings, killing of the king. So this is going to be huge. So I did that just to illustrate the path of the eclipse, how that ties into the killing of the king ritual, and how the killing of the king ritual is at the heart of all of this. It goes back to eclipses. It was based on eclipses. They're saying eclipses were major astronomical events which they needed to protect kings from, so that symbolically, that to replace the king, symbolically kill the king to protect the real king from what would happen after an eclipse. So that's how they tie in. So this is August 2nd, 2027, when the eclipse will make a bullseye in between the twin pillars.
It makes me wonder if LeBron does so happen to come back for another season, King James, the king, maybe that being his last season, because it'll be just 2 months before this particular eclipse on 8/2, and there's 82 games in a regular basketball season. Just some things to think about if he does come back. What could they have in store for the NBA next year? I just wanted to shout out Sally Whitty really quick with the Oz thing. There was that clip with Erica Kirk being taken away from the correspondence dinner, and she said, "I want to go home."
Oh, okay. Well, I know that's a big one. Yeah. I have to write that down. Thanks. Yeah, so that's my presentation. How these things all tie in, and the eclipse is a big one. The eclipse is a big part of the killing of the king ritual. That's a very important connection to make. Is how our eclipses tied into the killing of the king and the twin pillars. Mar-a-Lago has the twin pillars.
Oh, that's fantastic, Rambo. That's whew.
And that's yeah.
Cody, were you going to say something? I'm not sure if I heard you off mute.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm glad Rambo brought up the other places because I didn't really look specifically at the path yet. So I was just kind of nice to see Rambo also connecting that with this, with Hulk Hogan and the twin pillars. And obviously I've talked about this the Saros 136 in connection to, why Derek has pointed out it's such an important eclipse. And yeah, so the 136, which is interestingly enough is the gematria of underworld. Also, I just realized that a little bit ago. But the Jesuits, and they were founded 3 days after an eclipse from this Saros, and of course the first eclipse from Saros 136 was on Donald Trump's birthday, 6/14/1360. So you have, and technically in some parts of the world, the first eclipse of this Saros started on 13/6 in the year 1360. So you got double 136. So this is no doubt, I think, the biggest number that with this, and it makes sense. The Jesuits equals 136. Baphomet 136. There's so many 136s I've covered, but definitely as we get closer to this, I mean, I'll continue to do videos about it. I'll just look and see. I'll look more into Hulk Hogan too. And with it being on JD Vance's birthday, I've always thought that was big. August 2nd, also, the Declaration of Independence was signed. So I feel like, yeah, I mean, even though the eclipse obviously isn't over the United States, remember when the other eclipses, the American eclipses happened, it went over Little Egypt. So they made an X over Little Egypt. So it was, I think, pointing again to this eclipse. Yeah, world-changing events going. I think it's one of the biggest eclipses. And again, I pointed out that the drawing on the Bank of America with the Trump-looking kid standing in front of the pyramid with the eclipse, that painting, I think there's no better eclipse for that to be predictive programming for than this one. So I think that, and I think Trump, when he posted World's Greatest Reset a few weeks ago, he was pointing to this eclipse as well. I mean, World's Greatest Reset equals 341. Trump, so that there's something with the 341 here too, because when Donald Trump was born, and again, the first eclipse from this Saros happened on his birthday. But if you'll notice, when he was born 341 days after a solar eclipse on July 9th, 1945, and 341 days before a solar eclipse on May 20th, 1947. So he's born smack dab in the middle of two eclipses with 341 days on either side. And that's important because, again, he just posted a post, the World's Greatest Reset. I think that was like April. I think he posted that on April 11th, the shooter's birthday, or at least one day after that. It's one of that. It's either after the shooter's birthday or on the shooter's birthday. And again, I just showed you born 341 days before and after a solar eclipse. Now this coming solar eclipse on August 2nd, well, it's going to be in Janus lunation 341. That basically means it will be the 341st moon lunation since the century started. So again, they started naming the moon lunations in 1923. But if you're going from, we call this the lunations basically starting from the beginning of the century, it'll be the 1294 lunation overall, but it'll be the 341 of this century. And the reason that seems to be important is not only because of what I showed you with the 341s, but they're calling this the eclipse of the century. So think about that. They're calling it the eclipse of the century. If you go 341 lunations from the beginning of the century, you're landing on this eclipse. And there was more 341s that came up. I think when the shooter at the pyramids, because we had a shooter at the pyramids. What was that? Was that right before the the shooter.
Yeah, that was before the shooting.
Yeah, so they're telling that it's a big story here. That there was a shooter at a pyramids.
But
a few days,
on 420 is on April 20th, and the shooting was on April 25th.
right. So yeah, just 5 days. 5 days before that, we had a shooting at pyramids, and if you look up that shooter's age, on the day that he did that, he was. Let me see if I can find it here in my notes. He was on the shooting April 20th, you said. He was 341 lunar phases old when he did that. He was standing on top of the pyramid of the moon, which of course is involved in the eclipse, and he was 341 moons old. I mean, how much more perfect can you? I just showed you how this is connected with the 341st lunation and the eclipse over the pyramids, the pyramid shooter standing on the moon shooting, and he was 341 moons old. I mean, it's. And then again, Trump had just days before that had just posted, world's greatest reset, and Rambo had mentioned, and somebody in the chat had made a good point too. Reset, right? The Egyptian god Ra is also known as Re, R-E, and the Egyptian god Set is S-E-T. So the word reset is a combination of Ra and Set. Re Set, which is Ra Set. And yeah, so that was a great, I forget who it was who mentioned that in the comments, but that was a good point, that Re can also be written R-E. Yeah, I think I just wanted to, because I've been covering this eclipse now for since Derek, and again, thanks to Derek for really pointing it out too. Well, I mean, he'd been talking about it for a while, but I've really been focusing on it, and all the events I kind of look how it connects to this eclipse, because I think it really is a big one. And what Rambo made points of too makes it even more astronomically improbable, the way that the path is, and just the whole symbolism of the areas that it's going over.
Yeah, so I do show in my decode also how Mecca is also coded into the whole ritual of the White House shooting, because the carpentry where he was arrested has a cube pattern on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's face down onto the cube motif. The cube, where's the most famous cube? It's in Mecca. And it actually looks as if he's almost kissing the cube on the carpet. That's what you do in Mecca. You can kiss the cube itself, or you can kiss the black stone. Either way, you kiss the cube in Mecca. And they were actually symbolically imitating that, because that shooting happened, as it turns out. It's hard to get an exact date, but I got an exact date because Malcolm X wrote a letter from Mecca dated for April 26th. That was 1964. People give a different date, but it's dated. I saw a PDF from it. It was dated April 26th, 1964. And in the letter, Malcolm X shows how he transformed his worldview after doing the Hajj, after circumambulating the Kaaba. He says in the letter that he had just done it. So it's very likely that he had circumambulated the Kaaba on April 25th, because then his letter dated April 26th. He said, I just completed the Hajj. That's when his whole worldview completely transformed. He became more of a uniter, and started to see things more in common with different races, predominantly in the Islamic world. That's actually what made him more of a threat. When he was the way he used to be a separatist before, that was wonderful. When he got away from that, then he became a threat. He didn't last more than a year after that. He did not last a year. That's when they said, no, we can't have that. He was a uniter, at least within the Islamic world anyway. But that tells you that it's very likely that he did the Hajj, maybe even kissed the cube, on April 25th in 1964, which would mean that this White House ritual was done on the anniversary of Malcolm X doing the Hajj at the cube, at the Kaaba. And then you have cube patterns in the carpentry. And you have the perpetrator face down as if he's kissing a cube. So, yeah, I have that in my decodes as well. If you want to be more in depth on that, I have a couple of decodes on that.
Somebody had mentioned that the floor was kind of similar to the movie The Shining.
Yep.
And in that movie, the guy is from Torrance, or what is it?
Yeah,
or the guy's name is Torrance, and then the
yep.
shooter is from Torrance, California. So there is one of my commenters had mentioned that. I can't remember who it was, but I haven't looked more into that, but that's just something somebody had shared.
Yeah, that was the first thing. The first thing I thought of when I saw the images of the shooter's arrest was the movie The Shining, for those cube patterns. Yeah, and the child in that movie has the Apollo 11 sweater it's a knitted sweater with a rocket going up. Can't get away from the rocket, and it says Apollo 11 on it. Yeah, so that's other depths. I didn't put that part in my decodes yet, but yeah, there's so many depths to it, and all connect to what we've been talking about.
Something I was thinking about too, just as you were talking about rockets, I was thinking about how The Rock, what was it you were talking about? I can't remember now exactly what you were saying. You were talking about WWE with something, and then I was just thinking about how The Rock is obviously, if not probably the biggest WWE star there is, I would say, or one of. I mean, maybe more than Hulk Hogan, I would say at this point. But yeah, The Rock-ette, like The Rock E.T., makes me think of like a extraterrestrial rock. Like, I mean, yeah, his name is The Rock, and you add the E.T. at the end, like an extraterrestrial. So, and E.T. is 5'2", and that's his birthday. The Rock's birthday is 5'2". And then we just had that race also on his birthday. It was all synced up with. I did a video on that, all the birthdays of May 2nd and the horse winning, and that was The Rock's birthday also when the horse won. And then just lastly, I'm gonna drop off here in about 5 minutes, but I just finished, or I'm almost finished. So right after right before the Super Bowl, there was the death of the Kryptonite. You mentioned that earlier, the Kryptonite singer from Three Doors Down. And of course, ever since then, I've been watching the show Smallville, which is about Superman. For some reason, after that happened, I felt drawn. I felt led just to watch that for some odd reason. I didn't know it was going to be so connected, but I just almost finished watching the whole series. I've been watching episodes here and there since that happened. And the last episode has really like opened my eyes to how perfect that show is connected to this year. And in fact, funny enough, that whole show is Egyptian themed. But besides that, I just wanted to I'm probably going to do a video on this, but it's really crazy. The last episode is about the entity Darkseid causing what looks to be an eclipse, but it's actually a planet. Darkseid's coming to Earth as a huge planet that's going to destroy and bring about apocalypse. And but the character's name is Darkseid, and in that movie in the show at the last episode, Darkseid resurrects Lex Luthor using his own father's heart. So he tears out his own father's heart, Lionel Luthor, and gives it to his son to resurrect Lex Luthor. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because right before the Super Bowl, the Kryptonite singer died, referencing Superman. And the next day, the Dark Side defense won the Super Bowl out of Seattle. And of course, Seattle has the Space Needle. Well, in that last episode, when Lex gets resurrected, they show his, because what he does, he dies early in the show, he dies, and then he creates himself a bunch of clones. And by the last episode, he resurrects his actual clone, his real self, using his father's heart. But Darkseid is the one who does it. So Darkseid, defense from the Seahawks, he resurrects Lex. But on the chamber that's holding this guy's body, Lex's body, it says LX. Well, who won Super Bowl LX with the dark side? It was Super Bowl LX. That's literally what it says on the side of his chamber, LX. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even realize this was, like, I was kind of thinking I was crazy thinking that this was going to be so, but I'm realizing now that this show was a huge part of the whole Super Bowl. And but it gets even crazier too, because there's all parts in this show that really points to the eclipse, the Egyptian stuff. There's an episode 201 of the show is called Isis. And in that, they reference Clark Kent or Superman as being Ra. And so, yeah, there's a bunch. I'm not going to get more into it, but I just want to say that I feel like I'm going to be doing a whole decode on that. But I just wanted to mention that it seems this year is super connected. And the shooting of this, of Trump, or the supposed shooting in the ballroom, was on Tom Welling's, it was essentially on Tom Welling's birthday. It was on 4/25, but Tom Welling is born 4/26. Tom Welling is the guy who played Superman in Smallville. And I was looking into this for a while before this, and I was like, I wonder if something's going to happen on his birthday. Well, it kind of did. Like, within hours of his birthday, you had this ballroom shooting. And who's the guy that did the shooting? Well, Cole Thomas Allen. And again, Tom Welling, who played Superman, Thomas Welling is his name. And again, when Rambo mentioned about the rising sun coming through, when the shooter ran through the, metal,
yeah.
And think about how Clark or Superman is the man of steel, metal, bullets, metal detector. So yeah, and then like I said, in that show, they portray Superman as Ra multiple times. In fact, the whole show takes place in a coffee shop called the Talon, which is literally all Egyptian themed. And again, in the show, there's an ISIS foundation. There's an episode called Isis. When Lois Lane goes to Egypt, she even calls Superman Ra again in that episode. So there's so much Egyptian symbolism tied to that show, which could point to next year as well. But I definitely just wanted to throw that in here to kind of give a teaser for what I have coming eventually to show. But the LX thing really blew my mind. The Lex Luthor being resurrected by Darkseid, LX, the Super Bowl Darkseid. And I'll mention this too, but this is kind of a big reveal. In one of the episodes, so Jurassic Liars has been talking about June 11th, Elvis, Seattle for years, right? These three things. And again, his stuff is undeniable. The more you look at it, I mean, people think he's crazy, but I can't undeny his research. What I see in this show just blew my mind. On one of the episodes called Upgrade, Clark takes red kryptonite, which turns him evil, and he goes to Seattle randomly. Seattle's not even in the show. And all the cities in Superman are not even called, like Metropolis is the name of the city. Then you got Star City. They're not even named after real American cities. But however, the one city they keep true in this show is Seattle. He goes to Seattle on red kryptonite. He stands on top of the Space Needle with a villain called Zod. And he turns and he says, let's give Seattle a surprise. And he blows his ice breath all over Seattle. Think about it. We're in the year of ice. Seattle won the Super Bowl. And he goes on the Space Needle and blows his ice breath over Seattle and says, let's give them a surprise. This is the evil Clark, the evil Superman on his red kryptonite. And the two guys, I'll just save this for my video, but the two guys on the stop of the Space Needle are born the perfect amount of days apart, born the perfect year to connect with Elvis and the Space Needle and Seattle and June 11th. It all connects more perfectly than you could ever imagine. Because also, Clark Kent, Tom Welling, he's born on 1/16 day of the year, June 11th, backwards. And he's standing on the Space Needle in the show. And Elvis is El. Where does Superman come from? The house of El. And Tom Welling was born the year Elvis died. In fact, both the actors standing on the Space Needle in this show were born the year Elvis died. Zod and the actor who played Superman. So again, it's undeniable. After years of watching Jurassic, Elvis is such a big part of this, and I think it ties back to the El and Saturn, and the House of El. Because in that show, you know, Superman is all about El. His two love affairs are Lana Lang, LL, Lois Lane, LL. His enemy is Lex Luthor, LL. His enemy's father's name, who becomes Darkseid in the end, is Lionel Luthor, LL. I mean, it's all about L. So that's just a preview of what I have coming later at some point this week, I think.
Also, Miss Elizabeth's one of her husbands was Lex Luger.
Oh, wow.
And,
oh my gosh.
In fact, a lot of people suspect that he's behind her death because she was at home. He'd abused her before, and it's proven. He'd beaten her up, and she showed there was evidence and the police report, all the bruises she had, like photographic evidence of he beat her up. He used to assault her physically. And so when she died at the home with him, she was married to him at the time. And I think he made the 911 call, but he's a big suspect. I mean, of course, he didn't get charged, but it's not good. He doesn't have a good reputation as a result of that. That really, no one thought of him as the same because he did. There is evidence that he used to physically assault her.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's really crazy, really, actually, because again, I mean, his name was obviously inspired by Lex Luthor. I mean, Lex Luthor came before Lex Luger, so you would think that they took his name directly from that character. That's what I would think. I mean, if you look it up, you might even find that. But yeah, Elizabeth. Yeah, Elizabeth and Lex Luger. And I have never even looked into this guy, honestly. I mean, I knew who he is, but I never looked into Lex Luger at all.
Yeah,
I know he's sick right now. He's got some sort of disease.
So the name Elizabeth actually comes from, actually is related to Saturn. Sabbath is Shabbat. So it's like El Shabbat. From El Shabbat, you get Elzabeth, El Shabbat, Elzabeth, Elizabeth. It is related to the Sabbath, which is Saturday, which is Saturn Day, which is the cube. Saturn represented by the cube. It has the hexagram on the North Pole. All the cube stuff we've talked about, that ties into the name Elizabeth.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have to throw that in as part of the L stuff, because eventually I'm going to do a deep dive into all that. But yeah, that's a good addition.
Yeah, Codes, I know you need to go. I guess before we start winding things down, Rambo, was there anything else, I guess, based off of what Cody was sharing that you wanted to throw in here?
Oh, yeah, I've shared what I have.
Okay. Again, I mean, there's always more. I mean, we could have this just be one ongoing stream.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't want to go on for 6 hours. I mean,
yeah,
the longer the stream is, the less likely people are going to want to watch it. This is the truth. Do you want to watch? If you see a video for 4 hours, are you going to click on it? Most people don't have 4 hours.
Unless people have a long drive or something.
Yeah, unless you have a long drive. But you're more likely to see a live stream for an hour and a half or 2, yes. But 4 hours, 4.5, 5, no. So yeah, there's always things to add, clearly. But I think it's been great. And another thing too is when it's information on top of information on top of information, you can have great mind-blowing information the first hour. People are going to forget it because you heaped a whole bunch of information on top of that. You know what I mean? People can't retain 4 hours of information. So yeah, you could always go on. But
it's like when you fill up a cup, at some point it's going to overflow before you got to drink it a little bit before you can fill up more, you know?
Yeah.
That's my metaphor. The last thing I'll just share, I just think it's fitting with everything we've talked about tonight with regards to, you know, the pillars, the Twin Towers crumbling down, 9/11, etc. Look what they did today. Look what they did today. This was my only pick/post on the Patreon today, so a little plug for myself. But you know, as soon as I saw the Rangers could drop to 9-11 against New York, like immediately I just thought, is this a 9/11 ritual, right? Where the Rangers, who used to be owned by George Bush, the sitting president during 9/11, they could drop to 9/11. That was fitting. They could also pick up their 19th season loss, going back to the big 19 rituals going on there with 19 total hijackers, right, during 9/11. And then just an alignment from the founding date of the Rangers to tonight's game was 191 days, just like New York Yankees. Simplest cipher. So shout out to everybody on the Patreon today that capitalized on that. But for those that don't know, my name's AJ, Balll Don't Lie, 3 L's in Ball. You guys can find all my work either on the Patreon, here on YouTube, or on Instagram. And please feel free to send me an email anytime you guys want. Wordplay book, 3O's and book at gmail.com. Cody.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone. And thanks, Rambo. And thanks, AJ. It was another great stream. I'm glad I was able to make this one this week. And thanks to everyone who watched. And if you guys, again, want to support me, it's Decoding with Cody on YouTube. And buymeacoffee.com/decoding with Cody is where the support can be made. And as always, I appreciate all the supporters and all the viewers. And hope everyone has a good rest of your night.
Yeah, Cody, it's time for you to get some rest. We appreciate you getting up and all the sacrifices you make for this particular collab, and obviously everything you do for your own channel. So once again, you guys, if you guys have not subscribed to Decoding with Cody, please do so right now. If you guys have trouble finding it in the search bar, make sure that you type in 16461 at the end. That should narrow down the search for you guys. And lastly, but certainly not least, Rambo, take us home.
Yeah, thanks. I'll say foremost to the audience for watching, and for those who will watch. But not everyone who watches are watching. They'll watch later. So I like to say in advance, thank you for all those who watch and all those who support and all those who make the great comments and the contributions that they did. Of course, we're all happy to see Cody here again. Thanks for the sacrifices he makes and all the mind-blowing connections that he comes up with as well. And for you, AJ, as usual, putting the whole thing together and your contributions as well. And this is where I can be found, patreon.com/thetruthcodes and instagram.com/thetruthcodes.
And one thing that I don't think you emphasized, or at least too much in the opening intro, you guys, you also get access to Rambo's Discord, right? So shout out to the chat once again here on this weekly show. But I know a lot of those folks are in the Discord as well. And I mean, they're talking to each other every single day, right? So as you're waiting for another week, there's always obviously more to talk about. But I just want to emphasize that as well. You get all of Rambo's content. You get access to his Discord. Best $5 you will ever spend a month.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah. It's called the Codebreaker Community Discord. And thank you, Sally. In mind words, thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you, Rambo. Once again, thank you, Cody. Thank you, chat. Thank you, everybody. This show would not be what it is without you guys. And just one final reminder, if you haven't done so already, please hit that like, please hit that subscribe. It really does help with the algorithm, despite us seeing a lot of channels in this community seeing lower viewership and things like that. So we really appreciate your guys' support. And without further ado, we'll see you guys next week on the next one. Peace.
Right, take care.